To thank our speakers, Professor Danielle Allen, Curtis Yarvin. I'd like to thank the folks from the Harvard Faculty Club that enabled this to happen.
And if I can still get my preamble,
excuse
me, I had to stop. Is one of the problem with Curtis Yarvin is he doesn't really like understand history. He's really good at like piecemeal grabbing history facts or kind of like saying things. He does like the classic philosopher thing where he like says something that maybe in like a really small sense is true and then kind of blows it out of proportion.
Okay.
He'll be like, FDR ran the government like a startup because he like came in and he was here to transform it. You know, he saw all this stuff and just gonna swipe it away to change to his vision kind of shit. And he's like, that's like a king. And, like, that totally ignores the fact that, like, the Supreme Court was fighting against him a bunch and that, like, not all of his bills passed and that some of his bills passed and were super unpopular and then were, like, immediately struck down or, like, rendered unconstitutional. And then, but there was some things where he won. But you just take this, like, idea that FDR transformed the government, which he did do, and then you, like, blow that up into he was a king and had, like, total power, which is just, like, not true at all. He passed, like, a bunch of welfare shit and then got us through World War II, which is, like, a big deal, but the idea that he was, like, an actual king or ran America like a startup is just, like, a stupid-ass...
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah, and shit like that. So he's going to say a lot of stuff like that where he's going to be like, this president ran the country like a startup, and it's just going to be, like,
he's
not really true.
He's just going to make unsubstantiated claims, basically.
Yeah, or like claims that are just really hard for the average person to like disprove. Even like a professor, if you're like polite, you'll still be like, well, I guess in like some respects, sure.
Oh, wait.
And then an audience member hears that and they're like, oh shit, FDR ran it like a startup. When in reality, it's like, well, there's elements of a startup, but he didn't run it like a startup. Like not like the totality of that statement.
Okay. YouTube, I think, might have crashed. But you know, at this point, no one ever watched it on YouTube.
Yeah, it's fine.
So I don't really care at this point.
All right, let's resume.
Yep.
Basically got to say is remain respectful. Disruptive behavior, by and large, won't be tolerated. Anyhow, for a brief introduction, Professor Allen is a Harvard University professor, director of the Allen Lab for Democracy Renovation, a political philosopher, ethicist, and public policy expert. She's also a nonprofit leader, democracy advocate, tech ethicist, and author. Her work can be found in The Atlantic, as well as The Washington Post, among other places. She led Harvard's Edmund and Lilly Center for Ethics.
Yarvin looks like that nervous kid that sits in the corner.
He has the classic, like, I found one cool jacket when I was, like, 20, and I've never stopped wearing it since kind of vibe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's got, 100%. But to be fair, he is a tech bro, so that would fit his MO.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, he's like an ex-tech bro, Silicon Valley type. I mean, like, yeah, cause that's one of the ways he got in contact with, like, Peter Thiel, because Peter Thiel was, like, a big investor in early tech, and he like worked on some like early blog thing that I think got bought by somebody.
Okay, interesting.
Previously developed the roadmap to pandemic resilience during COVID and ran for Massachusetts governor back in 2022. Her scholarship focuses on the reinvigoration of democracy, civic engagement, and institutional reform. Her most recent book, Justice by Means of Democracy, underpins this with The Radical Duke, forthcoming in 2026, if I have that right. Other works include Our Declaration and Democracy in the Time of Coronavirus. Curtis Guy Yarvin is an American blogger, political theorist, and software developer known by his pen name, Mencius Moldbug. He attended Brown University and was influenced by Silicon Valley's libertarian tech culture in the 1990s and thinkers like Ludwig von Mises, Murray Rothbard, Thomas Carlyle, and Hans Hermann Hoppe. Yarvin developed a critical stance against democratic systems, particularly after reading Hoppe's Democracy, the God That Failed, back in 2001.
Okay, hold on, pause. I'm being validated right now because I was fucking triggered because people in the video I made in the comments were accusing me of not doing my research. And the one thing I was like, fuck, maybe I didn't do my research, was saying he liked Hoppe a lot. Because I had like got that. I literally just been like, well, whatever, like this is super similar to Hop's work, and this like one article is saying he is influenced by Hop, so I'm down just to take it. In the fucking intro to Harvard, they're literally like, yes, he was particularly influenced by Hop, and Curtis Yarvin is nodding. That was the only thing in my research where I was like, maybe I'm iffy on that.
And then this
And
just helps to confirm it even more, even harder.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
correct. Everyone who said my research was bad on the comment section, yes, it triggered me. Fuck you, I was correct though.
Yes, make sure you guys go check out Deadliest Squid on YouTube and also on Twitch.
Yeah, everywhere.
He does in fact have a whole thing.
I have like a 20 or 30-minute video on Curtis Yarvin because fuck this guy.
Yarvin is a founder of the so-called neo-reactionary movement, or the Dark Enlightenment, alongside Warwick philosopher Nick Land. He wrote the blog Unqualified Reservations, advocating for replacing American democracy with an accountable monarchy or corporate-style governance, critiquing liberalism as a pervasive system he terms the cathedral. In 2002, Yarvin found the Urbit networked computing platform. Curtis Yarvin published selections from his blog, Unqualified Reservations, with Passage Press in 2023, and published his first original book, Fascicle 1, Disturbance, with Passage. So I'd like to welcome both of our speakers for a spirited debate. And I figure we ought to get into the first topic. Very briefly, in terms of the format, there will be 2 resolutions, each which should last for about 30 minutes, with both speakers going back and forth. After those 2 topics are discussed sufficiently, closing remarks will proceed. So the first matter, resolved. The long-term stability and flourishing of our society is better secured by concentrated executive authority than by democratic institutions. Perhaps for a first statement, Professor Allen.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you, David. Glad to be here, and thanks to all of you for turning out. You've got Dark Enlightenment and Bright Enlightenment.
Enlightenment.
I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Regular enlightenment.
And I'd like to share a little bit about where I come from in answering this question. You heard in the introduction that I am a combination of Harvard prof and democracy advocate. Folks often ask me, what exactly do you do, Danielle, with all of those different balls being juggled? And the answer is simply I work on democracy, past, present, and future, with no question mark at the end of that. That's a focus I come by super honestly. It's a matter of family inheritance, for starters. My dad's dad, my granddad on my dad's side, helped found one of the first NAACP chapters in Northern Florida in the 40s. Northern Florida at that time was just pretty much the same as Southern Georgia. So it was super dangerous. Lynchings were on the rise. He took his life into his hands to secure the right to vote. On my mom's side, my great-granddad marched with suffragettes on Boston Common in 1917. My great-grandmother
If we can just pause for a
president of the
second.
League of Women Voters.
I already have to say, rhetorically, not good for Yarvin to be like democracy bad, and then the lady across from him to be like, my dad was in a place where lynchings were common and he fought for the right to vote. Like already, Curtis Yarvin off on a rocky step when he opens his mouth and be like, that's cool and whatever, but fuck your dad. Like
Yeah.
In Michigan in the 30s.
He'll
And this
never
was
recover
because
this whole-
they
from this whole
believe that
hour.
empowerment is the bedrock for human
think he's gonna
thriving
get-
and well-being.
my assumption is he's
So
gonna get
I was
bodied, but
fortunate
then again,
to
Professor's
acquire
lecture,
that
not
commitment
debate,
in
so I don't really
view
know how much
as
to
a
do.
young person growing up in my family. No surprise in that context, I took that for granted. I took democracy's value for granted as a young person. And of course, as I came of age, watched my own generation come up in the world, the question of democracy's value got a lot more complicated. I watched a real parting of ways, parting of experience. I have had incredible opportunities, immense privilege here in the cathedral. And as well, having had siblings as well who have thrived and so forth. At the same time, though,
I hope he explains the I mean, it's an hour and 15 minutes. He'll probably get to it. My hope is because if he doesn't explain the concept, I'll explain it, because it is like a very, in my opinion, very like dumb, undisprovable, or like it's like disprovable, but it's like it's like abstract enough to where it's still kind of like hard to like get somebody out of the position. Yeah, hopefully I'm not gonna explain it yet, but hopefully he can explain it, because in my opinion it's like very stupid and abstract.
Okay. I gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, he'll probably try to. If I'll wait for. I'm assuming his explanation is gonna suck and not be very good because he needs to like obfuscate it, and then I will just give you the like actual, what exactly the cathedral means,
Okay.
and like why it
Oh
matters.
yeah, I
And just,
remember you brought it up with me before.
I've told you
I
about
think.
it, and
Yeah.
we'll have to get into some metaphysics to
Oh,
talk
good. I
about it
love the
too. I
metaphysics.
know, I know. We're gonna learn about how the human brain works according to Curtis Yarvin. Isn't that exciting?
According to Curtis Yarvin. Wait, is this gonna be metaphysics or like metaethics?
Well, metaphysics is about how do we understand the world.
Oh yeah.
Um, and
Okay.
so, and so he has like he has. I guess I'll just do it. I'll give you like a rundown real
Alright,
quick on the
alright.
cathedral, and that way you and I can be on the same page. And he brings up his definition. So, first thing, metaphysically, is that like the human brain, the way ideas work, are like a virus. So do you know what's his name? The fucking one of the four horsemen of atheism, Richard Dawkins. That's his name. He
Oh,
came
that
up with the
guy,
concept
yeah,
of
yeah.
yeah, he came up with the concept of the meme, which is like ideas act as viruses, and basically
Okay.
like if you read like the God Delusion, one of the things he talks about is how like religion is just like a super powerful meme for whatever reason. I know it's literally where the word meme came from. He
Yeah,
invented
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So
Which
it
is
just got
pretty funny.
fucked. Yeah, except we just saw the internet took it and ruined it. So anyway, and so there's this guy named Deleuze who was around way before Richard Dawkins was, and he wrote a book called Difference and Repetition, where he talks about the differences between like repetition and what is it? It's like generality. Hold on, I can probably rip out a quote real quick. He says it in like the first sentence.
All right.
Okay, yeah. So there's repetition versus generality. And so repetition is like something being literally exactly the same, whereas generality is just something being like generally similar.
Okay.
And so he's trying to like distinguish these ideas. And basically he talks about how like the human mind, the way the human mind works is that it doesn't work through repetition. It works through like generality. And so like ideas transform and change over time. But also once you get to like the end point of an idea like spreading is that it can like once it's generalized enough, this is not Deleuze, this is like Nick Land, it can like express itself in reality, like it can become a thing. So like if enough people think about how badly they want to live underwater, like eventually people will just live underwater because we've like
Oh.
like we've
Okay.
manifested the idea. I don't know if you know like Rocco's basilisk. This is like the
No.
ultimate version of this. Rocco's basilisk is this like thought experiment of like it's like a really generalized version. Like what if in the future there's a robot that if you don't help create will make a digital version of yourself and torture it for all of eternity. And basically this caused people like enough stress where they've like multiple people have like become coders to help make Rocco's basilisk real. That way they won't get tortured for eternity. And so, but whatever, that's supposed to be kind of like the ultimate example of like something in real time happening because the idea is spreading. So how does this relate to the cathedral? So the cathedral is basically like liberalism as a meme, as an
Okay.
idea that is spread throughout society and permeated it. So already we now have a problem because we have constructed a concept of like mind viruses that don't need to be exactly the same. They just need to be like generally similar to where they're like creating a similar structure, right? Because they're
Okay,
not all
yeah.
exactly the same, which is like another reason why this idea is kind of like dumb, because now you can have people who don't even have the same idea, but the idea is like tangentially related, and so now they're part of like the same thing, you know what I mean? So there's like all these stop me if you have any questions.
Technically, I probably have so many questions, but please just
Okay,
keep going.
I mean, yeah, as long as you are like understanding the thought process, like you can ask questions like why does he believe this, and that's like I don't know, he's goofy or whatever, but that's just like
he's
how
just
it's
weird.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's because this is like Nick Land. Nick Land did all this shit, and then Curtis Yarvin just showed up and was like, I'm stealing all of this. This is a great fucking idea. And so what you've had is you've basically just had the argument would be like America has constructed a system in which like liberalism has pervaded the world, and created in the elites the cathedral, which is a like totally not connected group. The only thing that connects them is their ideology, because they're all kind of like infected with this general idea of liberalism. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Why is this a problem? And so when he says the cathedral, he means like education systems, news, government, shit like that.
Yeah.
Why
yeah,
is this Why is
Big
this a
Brother.
problem? Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not even Big Brother, because they don't need to like know each other. That's why it's like
Oh
the
yeah,
dumbest.
yeah.
It's like the most annoying conspiracy
Okay.
ever.
Okay. I
because-
see. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because none of
Okay.
them, like, you don't even have to be in contact with anyone in the cathedral to be a part of the cathedral. Like, theoretically.
Okay. So kind of honest. So somewhat like the organization Anonymous. In that
No,
sense?
it's not even that. At least Anonymous, you have to sign. You have to like be a part of Anonymous. Like, to be in Anonymous,
yeah.
you have to say like, I'm part of Anonymous. Like, technically speaking, when I become a
Plug in
lawyer.
my headset.
Okay. Go get your headset all set up.
Yeah. Come on. This is gonna be a little pain in the ass. There we go. And let's hope this is long enough for me to deal with this. Yep.
Okay.
All right, now it's charging.
Sick. So like that's why you need to understand the cathedral is like extremely stupid, because you can be
Sure,
a part of it
sure.
and like not even know what it is. Like, theoretically, once I enter the workforce as like a upper middle class, like upper class lawyer or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like in a position of power, and I will now be a part of the cathedral because I'm a dude in power with liberalism as an idea, right? Like, I'm now part of the cathedral
So-
liberal agenda.
So your Curtis just wants to like forego all of that and just be like, yeah, there's one guy ruling everything.
How do we? You've asked an excellent question. How do we go from, like, technically, Curtis Yarvin hasn't even identified a problem, if he has identified anything. Thanks for the
Hey,
gifted tier 1 sub.
DZ, what's up?
Technically,
Thanks so much.
technically speaking, no problem has actually happened yet, right? Like,
Yeah,
we've
yeah,
just
yeah.
identified that there's like an idea virus that has made everyone in power. I don't know how he explains why it's everyone in power. It's probably something to do with like the education system or some other shit where that's like the pervasive force of
Okay.
idea of liberalism virus. So what's the problem? Well, now you get Hans Hermann Hoppe. Bam, you slap that fucker into this. Hans Hermann Hoppe has the concept of decivilization, which is basically like the bigger the government gets, the worse civilization is. And so what happens is, like, liberalism supports things like welfare and like a stronger and like more public sector.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like a bigger public sector, and just like taking taxes and then like reinvesting it into like whatever.
Yeah, it's just social programs and the like.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem is, according to Hans Hermann Hoppe, is that this is like power breeds power. So it's like the government's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's going to keep taking out resources. And because capitalism is awesome, this is going to like lead to a less efficient society, people with less money, and like it's just going to get worse and worse and worse as we drain more resources from society.
Okay.
And this is going to be like de-civilizational, to where like society gets worse and worse and worse over time, which is just ignoring the fact that society's only gotten like better. But whatever, like, despite what Hans Hermann Hoppe might say. And so, in order to stop this, is you need the libertarian monarchist, or the CEO president, who from like the top down just like destroys, like all of the
Everything.
government and forces it to stay small. And that's why you want a CEO, because you want a guy who just like runs the government efficiently. And then what exactly the government does, he said it at one point. I forgot exactly what he said, but the government does just like very little. It's like a minarchist
Yeah.
state. Even though he's technically he's not like a libertarian anymore. It's very like, it's a very post-libertarian. Like the libertarians realize they don't need democracy, just crush it all down.
Didn't he say like neo something or other?
He's a neo-reactionary.
Yeah, neo-reactionary.
Yeah, he's like one of the founders of the neo-reactionary movement, and like he's like an alt-right figurehead guy. So he's very big in the alt-right, very big in the neo-reactionary thing. Yeah, like national conservatives really like him because national conservatives really like a strong executive.
Yeah.
He has like a list. I think I showed you the list of how to destroy democracy.
Yep.
Yeah,
And we're whether or not our government is aware of it. Well, you said JD Vance is a fan of Curtis Yarvin, right?
Mm-hmm. JD Vance follows him on Twitter. JD Vance is mentioned in multiple interviews as like an influence. You can even find it.
Yeah.
You can find him saying it, like not just in articles, but he did like an interview for a podcast, and he was literally like, "Yeah, there's this guy named Curtis Yarvin who talks about this, and when he says this, he's like, I think he was explicitly referring to the cathedral, like in that being like the elites are controlling this, and we need a powerful executive who stands up to the judges and tells them no, which is like not how that's supposed to work.
Yeah, we specifically have a system that's not supposed to work that way.
Yeah, well, at least like the way it's been interpreted.
Yeah,
yes.
sure. Yeah.
Technically speaking, it was not set up for the judges to say no. The judges just said we can say no, and then everyone was like, that makes sense.
But I remember you also telling me that all the steps that Curtis Yarvin was saying to, basically collapse what we already have, a lot of it has already like kind of come to fruition.
Yeah, it's like the majority of it's already happened.
Yeah.
There's a couple that like explicitly have not happened. The most explicit one that hasn't happened is Donald Trump did not run on destroying democracy.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I strongly suspect Curtis
implied.
Yarvin. Yeah, I strongly suspect Curtis Yarvin threw that in to like not get in trouble in the same way that like, Marxist-Leninists will never be like, yeah, bro, kill 1% of the population. They'll all say something else, but then obviously they like what they really mean is we would like to kill 1% of the population.
It's like don't.
So yeah, that's my.
It's like don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my vibe on that one rule. And then there was like two other rules. The question right now is like how far is Trump gonna get in like ignoring judges? Like how far can he get in that? Because that's like a pretty important one. Because like the main issue is that we're just finding like the executive is the thing that executes, right? So it's like, how do you like now everybody's like, well, how do you even punish the executive? Like, what the fuck? When it just goes AWOL, like, what do you do? And the answer is like,
a parliament is starting to sound pretty nice at the moment.
Well,
but not that I would know enough to determine that one way or another. But
yeah, I think it's more just like a flaw, or it's not. It's just like the problem is that he's managed to co-opt Congress. Had he not been able to co-opt Congress, it would have been fine. Like the founders like specifically set up the three branches to like compete with one another.
Yeah.
So what happens when like the executive manages to make one of the branches his bitch? You're just like it fucks up the whole system.
Yeah.
And there's not really like a way to fix that. Like even in a parliamentary system, like let's say in a parliamentary system, all that would happen is Donald Trump would just be the prime minister.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be it. That'd be like the only difference, at least in my opinion. So.
Though he would probably have less. Well, as a prime minister, will probably have like less executive powers. I'm assuming, but I'm not sure like the specific role of a prime minister, and the role might be different between different countries. So.
It's the only basically in other countries there's just no executive versus legislative. That's just like one body.
Yeah.
Like there's not even really there is like a judiciary, but they can't overrule the legislature. It's just like that's it. All there is. It's just the legislature.
Gotcha.
I mean, if anything. No, go.
I was actually having a discussion yesterday with people in the Aurora debate server, where we were. It was brought up like different systems of government. It's like a system of governments at least partially, is going to be as strong as its leaders, or is not necessarily as strong as its leaders, but like it's influenced by who the people are. And there's and then there's different forms of government that make it less likely to be influenced in one direction and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hence our system that we have.
Yeah. Like the American system is the most like heavily divided of like all the like democratic republics that exist, because we have the 3 branches of the federal government, and then there's also the state governments, and the state governments also have their own 3 branches of the executive, legislature, and judicial. So we're like the most. That's why we're a lot of the times people are like we're behind the times. It's because like our system is probably like one of the slowest systems, which is obviously like good and bad. Like it's good, frankly, right now. Really fucking good. That it's like
It's true.
Slow. That it's like slow because it. Like if it was if it wasn't as slow, like there was no state separation of state and federal, and there was no like separation of the powers, Donald Trump would just fucking just tunnel right through everything. That's one of the problems when you have like Hitler. That's like the major flaw of like the parliamentary system, is that if you get a figurehead like a Hitler or like Mussolini, suddenly like Mussolini took over Italy in like 2 years because he just like went up there and nobody voted to kick him out, and he was like, all right, well, guess I'm king now. Like, you know, basically I'm just king now. Fuck you.
And then like some of them supported him.
It was basically like, well, he had a bunch of fascists in the parliament already.
Okay.
And then he just went up there and he was like, the amount of effort, like if I put even the time, like 1/10 of the amount of effort into unleashing fascist violence that I've put into holding it back, like Italy would collapse. Was basically what he said, which was like basically a bluff. Like probably would not have happened. But everyone in Parliament, but then, you know, when you say that, and then all the fascists in Parliament stand up with their batons, and then Mussolini throws the fucking book down, and he's like, only one person needs, because he was the prime minister. He's like, only one person needs to raise a problem, and you can start a trial and impeach me. And like, not a single person did it, because they know if they're the one person who does it, they're gonna get fucking beaten to death in the street as soon as they walk outside.
Yeah, that's pretty fucked. Yeah, so forced under coercion.
Yep. So then he just takes over. Yeah. So whereas
which I guess is kind of what's happening with Congress, because obviously Trump and his administration have like threatened so many people.
Well, that's like a part of it, but it's also like the thing though is that like but the problem was like the judiciary couldn't just say.
No, I think you're lagging a bit.
Oh, am I?
You were.
Okay, are we good now?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, but like under a prime minister, like under the way that like England works, right?
Coffee.
Yo, what's good, guys?
Hey,
what's up?
Welcome to.
We only got 5 minutes in. I had a lot to say, but yeah. But the way like a parliamentary system works is that like there just isn't. There's no like checks and balances. It's just Parliament. There's no checks and balances on Parliament, right? So like Mussolini could have just said like, I'm gonna make this law now, and then the judiciary is like, I guess he's making the law now. Whereas at least in America, Donald Trump's like, I'm gonna deport this guy, and then one of the branches of government just goes like, no, like you can't do that. Like it doesn't really matter what you want to do. Like
yeah. The problem is like, people are still being sent out regardless, right?
Executes, but the point would be like at least under our system, theoretically, arrest Trump at some point, or like hold him accountable. Whereas under a parliamentary system, it's like once you have a guy who's just in control,
then
he's just like,
you're
just done. He's just in control.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
There you go, bro. You just got like a whole fucking.
I just got a whole civics lesson.
You just got a whole civics class, bro. Congrats.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's so much better than listening to it in 6th grade.
Oh, dude, seriously.
I had such a mean 6th grade civics teacher. No one liked her. No, very few people did well in that class. She was like, if you saw her, she was definitely like an older like woman version of Snape from Harry Potter. Like straight up, it was like it was like uncanny.
That's funny.
It's crazy. Anyway, do we want to continue the video? Hey, Trish, what's up? How's it going?
We haven't even like started it. You didn't even miss
Fair.
anything, Coffee.
Welcome
like
in,
one
Trish.
person. What the lady did her intro saying she supports democracy, and now we're gonna do Curtis Yarvin. Like you haven't even missed anything.
I have cousins, kids I used to run around the streets playing football with who aren't here any longer for all the hardest things: substance use disorder, incarceration, gun violence. And I hit a point in 2009, I lost my youngest cousin, where I started banging my head against the wall and thinking, democracy is not supposed to be abstractly valuable. Yes, we embrace these ideals of freedom and equality, but the entire point is that when we do, it delivers a society that makes it possible for every generation to do a bit better than the previous, and also for a whole cohort to come up together. And so I started working on this question of how to change the dynamic of our democracy so that it could actually deliver on the promise of democracy. And that work took me in the first instance into criminal justice reform, trying really hard to change criminal justice reform policy. And it doesn't take very long if you try to actually fix something to discover that even if you've got common sense, cross-partisan solutions, it's really hard to get things through because of governance dysfunction. And at this point, I suppose along this path, I had a philosopher dad. I know Curtis had a philosopher dad too. There's a lot of similarity in that story up to that point.
Up to that point.
Ways. Curtis sees
like,
this
and
kind
that's
of
it.
moment in American experience, and he says, look, people, the whole history before 20th century, it's all about absolute monarchs, absolute rule, delivering for people. It's about absolute monarchs who operated in a context of belief in racial hierarchy. They delivered for people in the same way that corporations did, with the mission of maximizing their capital. Their capital is land and people. Because of wanting to invest in land and people, and because of believing in racial hierarchies, they embrace racial cleansing.
Argument's
That's
just
what
like
you've gotta do to
democracy,
have
good or
a
bad.
society.
The whole that's the whole debate.
Yeah, that's the whole debate.
Oh yeah, that's the argument. Oh yeah.
That's going to deliver for people. And so Curtis's view is that our 20th century world is founded on lies, the lies of egalitarianism and the lies that democracy can actually deliver for people. And because it's founded on those lies, he thinks it's foundering.
Okay,
He
pause.
thinks we need regime change.
Okay, red flag. Already problem with the lady. Because theoretically, Curtis Yarvin would say he's the most egalitarian because he'd be like, bro, free market capitalism, baby. We're just gonna go ham.
Because he was libertarian, right?
He's like I said, he's not like
well.
he's like monarchist with libertarian
Yeah.
characteristics, right? Like
Oh, that's
post-libertarian. Yeah. Oh, bro, you need to be here earlier. I walked through the whole thing.
Yep.
No.
I know it was like a 30-minute speech where I walked through his entire like thought process and how we got there.
Damn, I'll rewatch
More or
it.
less.
It's on YouTube, right?
So YouTube is
trash.
YouTube's just not working
No. Fuck.
this time.
All
Like I was like, okay, I have it all set up, everything's fine, and then it wasn't.
It-
So
Oh,
who knows? I don't know why it's not working.
they're trying to silence us, bro.
Trying to silence us.
Oh, it's true.
All right. You still listening, Squid?
He thinks we need an absolute
You're good.
monarch, unaccountable, no separation of powers, no checks and balances, no limits, and so forth. Could be Trump. We kind of elected him. Maybe that's already happening. That's what Curtis says in his
Well.
book. Could be Musk. He doesn't
Well.
say that in his book, but he has said that previously. Hard to say. Trump, Musk.
Do you think this might be a bit of a straw man from her, or?
I haven't read his book. If this is in his book, then I would agree. Yeah, I mean, Trump is definitely like the closest we've ever got.
Yeah, for
to,
sure.
like what Curtis Yarvin is saying. I don't think like it'll be Elon Musk. Elon Musk is just too much of like a fucking weirdo who nobody likes.
yeah.
Like, not even the people in Trump's like orbit like him. So
Yeah,
definitely not
and
him.
and people that work for him don't like him either. So
Yeah, exactly. Like right now, Curtis Yarvin's having his moment because Trump's like in the spotlight.
yeah,
I think the problem with all of this is like once Trump goes, I just don't know who replaces Trump. There is no like immediate heir. So we want to say JD Vance, but he's like the most unlikable human to ever exist. So I don't think it'll be him.
No, yeah.
Some people want it to be Trump's kids, but I just haven't
that'd
seen
be
a
so
single.
weird.
Yeah, I haven't seen a single Trump kid who's like nearly as like interesting as his dad. They're all kind of
Yeah.
lanky and awkward.
They all feel they actually feel like trust fund babies.
Yeah, like the only one who
Yeah.
people seem to have like a hard on for is Baron, but he's in fucking college, so it can't be him. He's like, too young.
So maybe they're just like trying to be hopeful with him, but
Yeah, like it wouldn't surprise me if we see some kind of shit where it's like it'd be closer to like a George Bush Sr., George Bush Jr. kind of a thing, where there's like a little lull before we see another Trump.
Yeah.
But again, you would need to have that same like
energy,
like Trump at the end of the day.
vibe.
Yeah, at the end of the day is a meat. He's just like a reality TV star. So he's like every day is a new episode of America, and like what's the drama in America today? And like usually,
And he creates it.
Yeah, exactly. Like literally, he does. So then it's like, none of his kids are like that. All his kids went to like Yale and have business degrees. Like none of them are gonna none of them know how to do any of that shit. I think after Trump goes away, the question is like, what's Trump gonna do in his 4 years? Like the hope is, basically we just have to like hunker down and hope we make it through. That's
basically,
really
that's really that really is the reality. Oh my, it's crazy because it's still not even half. It's still only a few months in.
Yeah,
it's still only a few months in.
Yeah, we're only 5 months in, literally. Like,
fuck. There, I'm gonna continue the video.
Got to know Duck Rabbit, one or the other. One of them, anyway, is in charge, going to run things for us and make everything better. Now, clearly, we part ways in that question of how to respond to the current moment. Why? Partly that history is false in his book. It is not the case that autocracies over the course of history have delivered good for human beings. They have consistently violated freedom. And I will come back to that point. I want you to focus on the idea of freedom and what it is worth to you. The second point is that egalitarianism is not the weak-minded invention of the 20th century. Egalitarianism has been with us for millennia, has been growing in force, goes all the way back to antiquity. Christianity extended it. Already in the early 1600s, you had indentured servants who struck for the right to vote in Jamestown. That same spirit showed up in Plymouth. Ditto the spirit of egalitarianism for all human creatures, Africans as well as everybody else. The Declaration of Independence was earnest in its commitment to equality. It led to the abolition of enslavement in Massachusetts as well as in Pennsylvania and Vermont.
Sorry, I think the waiting room is locked. I'm trying to.
Oh, son of a bitch.
Yeah, I think when he did it.
Yeah. Permissions. Private channel, no. Heads up, everyone does not have. Oh, okay, it needs to be reset. Oh, did someone just do? Did you just do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did it work?
Let's see. It's still locked, it looks like.
What the fuck?
Yeah, hold on. Permissions. Just hold on, I'm gonna do that, but mute. Oh, hold on, no, I don't want to do that. I want to, yeah, you can't speak.
What the hell? How's it not working?
Hold on, I'm working on it right now. Interesting. What a pain in the ass. Yeah, no, we don't want it to be private. Save. Okay, now it's public, quote unquote, and people should not be able to talk when they're in it. Give me a second. Finally. And technology once again. Hello, Seffi Bunny. How are you doing? Thank you for hopping onto the stream. Once again, we're still trying to iron out so many of the bugs. It's frustrating. But currently we are watching a video of a debate between Curtis Yarvin and Professor Danielle Allen. Currently just waiting for anyone to click the link below the stream, and that'll put you into the waiting room where we can pull you into the into our Discord channel, and we can maybe debate on one of the topics that is up on the board. So if anyone wishes to, I guess, take us on, obviously we're going to avoid dogpiling as best we can. And yeah, feel free to come up, chat with us, see how it goes. But
Come on in.
come on in. Otherwise, we are just going to continue watching the video. So please enjoy either way, and we hope you stick around.
Did we fix it? Can we continue the video?
What?
Sorry, did we fix it?
Yeah, I think we fixed it.
Yeah, we got it.
All right.
I have no issues with
Let's
any
go.
of this. All right.
By the end of the Revolutionary War, Rhode Island had already objected, or rather rejected, racial hierarchy before the Revolutionary War. In other words, it is not a weak-minded idea of the 20th century. What it does, rather, is reflect the claim of ordinary people to freedom. That's all. It's that simple. That's what egalitarianism means. Freedom is both the power to steer my own life in my private circumstances and to contribute with others to steering the public life.
Sorry. Trish Mob, who is Garcia, and why are they making a sequel to his movie?
Oh my god.
So it's about Abrego Garcia, who was sent out to prison in El Salvador without due process. Yeah, basically, and there's been a whole thing about trying to get him back when we can, and yeah. So if anyone wants to talk about that, obviously a lot of people are making claims he's actually part of MS-13, but has never been proven that he is or otherwise. So. Are we sure he isn't dead?
Didn't they say he wasn't? I could have sworn the president of El Salvador was like, no, he's not dead.
Yeah, or maybe like a week or two ago or something. There was like a politician that went out there and confirmed he was still alive.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Due process is like due process and shit. They should probably,
get that dude. Well, in a rare 9-0 ruling in favor of bringing him back, every single justice on the Supreme Court said, "Yep, bring him back." So,
and so far it seems like the executive branch is not going to do that.
Yeah, what they did is they took the meaning. Well, yeah, there was like a state judge who said you have to bring him back, and they were like, they read that to mean like we're trying. In reality, they were just like not really doing anything. They had like told some people to do it, and it just wasn't gonna happen. And the Supreme Court was like, no, you can't just be like we're trying. You have to go in, fucking do it.
Actually do it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like they're just not going to do it, and then they're going to go into the Supreme Court again, and see how that goes. I don't know. That'll be the moment.
That would be a really big moment. That decision is
like no joke, no memes, nothing, pure seriousness. If like the moment that Donald Trump goes up there and just says no to the Supreme Court, that is the like make or break.
That's the end of U.S. democracy.
Yeah, is democracy gonna end or not? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, it's very exciting in all the worst ways.
Yeah.
But pro tip: it only takes about 2 or 3 years to become a citizen in France.
Tick base.
Yeah.
And shape that constrains us all, the norms and laws. If you love freedom, there is only one possibility, because every unaccountable, and no absolute power is ever accountable. That's the definition of absolute power, is it is not accountable. No absolute power is ever accountable. Absolute power inevitably corrupts, tramples on, persecutes freedom. So the question that we have right now is not whether to have democracy and the protection of freedom, but only how to have that. The only question is, can we redesign our institutions to achieve that? And we can. And the single most useful thing that we could immediately do is party reform. Get rid of party primaries, get rid of the capture of power by political parties that work on the basis of a shrinking base of population to control our institutions. We, the people, need our power back. And with that, we can, in fact, redesign our institutions for effective functioning.
Thank you, Professor Allen. Mr. Yarvin, your response and your own presentation.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone who made this event possible. Professor Allen, of course, showed a lot of courage here and a lot of hard work. I'd like to also thank, Harvard University. We're not supposed to mention the name of the school.
Unclear.
Unclear. I'd like to thank everyone who made this possible, including the school where we are, including Passage Press, my publisher, including the John Adams Society, woohoo, out there in the public. And yeah, I think it's sort of a great opportunity to kind of test my views against Professor Allen. I guess I would say, I grew up in a sort of very different context. I grew up inside what's called the deep state sometimes, because my father was a foreign service officer and my mother worked at the DOE, and my stepfather actually worked on the Hill for many years and now teaches at Hopkins SAIS. And he worked for Biden actually for a while. And when I observed sort of the underbelly of this system from the inside, it did not seem to have very much to do with the kind of abstractions that Professor Allen talks about. And so in a way, I have kind of two preliminary responses to Professor Allen's narrative. One is that, reading her book, and I was reading, Democracy. Was Democracy is a Path to Justice? Is the
Other way around, my friend.
Justice is a Path to Democracy.
Justice by means of democracy.
Justice by means of democracy. And reading that, I was sort of like, it made me feel like I was reading, in a way, a work of Islamic history that was written by a Muslim. And I'm like, because this is someone who believes entirely in the system that she's describing. And so, not to, of course, have any negative discussion of the Muslim faith, but the thing is, if I'm reading a Muslim history of, say, the Abbasids of Damascus in the 9th century, written by a Muslim, I expect them to be very concerned with, is this the true caliph? Is this the real Islam? And so on and so forth, none of which, as a non-Muslim, are questions that really relate to me. And so when I read, for example, A Justice by Means of Democracy, I sort of notice every chapter starting with, there's no God but Allah and Muhammad is his prophet. And I'm like, I get it.
What's that?
No, I was just reading Steffi Bunny. Second term Trump scares the shit out of me. Look, man,
accelerationists might be having a decent time right now.
Yeah, the accelerationists are winning. I don't. Violence is not the answer until it is. You know what I mean? That's how it goes.
Minus the
It's like the French Revolution, American Revolution.
Nah, I'm the radical though. I'm the radical on that one. I don't know the other guy's opinions. I thought about it deep and hard. So
wait, if it comes to that.
Yeah, no, I literally have thought about it extremely. I thought about it extremely intensely, for a while, and I was like, okay, I have it was basically just if I'm like, is democracy worth killing somebody over? And I was basically just like, yeah, okay, I would agree, yes, it is. And so I was basically swings the swing at the democracy, I don't think needs to be successful. It just needs to be an actual attempted swing at democracy. So even let's say Trump violates due process or whatever, if he just follows the courts, then I don't really care, right? As long as he plays within the restraints given of the game, then I'm fine with that. And I'm don't get crazy yet. But if the event happens and he just tells the Supreme Court to fuck off and he's gonna do whatever he wants to do, then I'm okay,
there might be a problem.
It's not just a problem. This is a deep fundamental swing at the thing that is worth killing over. So then
at that point, I guess apply that Second Amendment right.
Yeah, literally. Then suddenly it makes sense why the Second Amendment exists. Yes.
Let's see, Trish Mop. I couldn't be bothered to be mad at politics since I've been vouching for cane fighting to the death in the retirement home for presidency for ages, but no one wants to see old people argue. People want entertainment.
Exactly.
That's exactly what we're providing here. So so boys, get your canes ready.
Yeah.
is what you believe in, but these abstractions seem uncorrelated with the realities. And what this reminded me the most, besides this observation about Islamic history, is it reminded me of one of the books that I really learned political philosophy from, because I'm an adherent of what's called the Italian school of political philosophy. And there was a great introduction to this, which I found by chance in a used bookstore, which is James Burnham's The Machiavellians. And The Machiavellian starts with, I think, one of the great political essays of all time, which is a takedown of Dante. And it is a review of Dante's book, De Monarchia. And Burnham, who was at the time metamorphosing from a Trotskyist into a neocon, and he was one of the first to make that transformation. This book is written in 1940. Looks at this, he reads De Monarchia, which is a book of political theory by none other than Dante, and he summarizes the arguments of De Monarchia in a way that sort of describes these kind of very lofty abstractions. And then he's like, all right, you can't even process these abstractions, let's process the reality. And so the reality is, instead of talking about abstractions, what Dante is really talking about is the conflict between two political factions, known as the white Guelphs and the black Guelphs, I believe. And all of these abstractions are basically Dante's way of saying, I forget if this is the white Guelphs or the black Guelphs that Dante is a member of, but it sort of reduces to a very specific set of political behaviors. So I think when I looked at sort of the reality in which I lived, I noticed sort of abstractions like democracy that are used in ways that, seem very, I think tendentious is not too, difficult to word. And so, for example, when I read Professor Allen's, definition of democracy, she seems to define democracy, almost the word, the symbol, as a good. And then defining the symbol, what constitutes democracy, it's not simply having elections, it's principles like difference without domination, it's basically principles of like, you can't be a democracy just having elections and electing leaders who, take office and exercise power because they won the election. That's not democracy. Oh no, democracy is sort of all of these intangible things that go along with this. And I'm like, is this the world's longest case of no true Scotsman? Because actually, if I'm going about to defining a Scotsman, I might say it's someone who was born in Scotland or someone who's a Scottish citizen or sort of simple cases like this. And when I define democracy, I'm like, there's a very simple question. How democratic is this country? And my answer to that is simply taking this not, going back and separating the is-ought distinction and saying, I'm like, how much power do the voters have? If the voters have no power at all, for example, in the EU, they'll frequently talk of the democratic deficit, indicating that actually the parliament, the European Parliament that's elected by the voters, is almost entirely symbolic and has no power. And actually, the real Europe is run by the European Commission, which is accountable to nobody, like the Supreme Court. And so actually, or like Harvard. And so, what we see people defending when they defend democracy, so-called, is they'll use terms like civil society, or they'll say our institutions. And these things seem to me to have nothing at all to do with giving power to elections. So, for example, I may be somewhere in the book, but I did not find any recognition in Professor Allen's book of the fact that the House of Representatives, the so-called home of democracy as defined by the founders, has a 98% incumbency rate. Or that if you're a freshman representative in the House of Representatives, you start at the very bottom. And so actually it seems to me that if I look at the real Congress, this is actually a buffer against democracy, against populism, as you might say, because when I hear the word populism, I view that as a synonym for democracy, and no, I don't think of it as a good thing. And so actually that difference over the meaning of the word democracy seems to me to be what we should focus on tonight.
Professor Allen, your response?
Well,
I could never do a debate like this because it's like a ton of words and there's no way I'd be able to like keep up with it and respond to all of it in one go.
Same.
I mean, if you want, I will.
Well, you're good at it. Like that's like Coffee and I
mean,
were just like, can we just have a discussion? Can we just ask questions of each other?
I have a
Well-
whiteboard right near me
Yeah.
ready
just to
mark
jot
it
down notes when
Right.
I'm talking.
I mean, like this is one of the problems with like this style of debate where it's more just like two like speeches at one
yeah.
another.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Where
hate
you
it.
have to like bring up like a good debate is like a point by point analysis. So really
Yeah.
the first like point that they should have stopped at was probably like, well, what exactly do you mean by like the Machiavellian Italian school? Like what are you talking
Yeah.
about? Like so
Wait, is this
kind
a
of break
formal debate?
it's supposed to like not it's not like a formal debate, but it's supposed to be like a debate about democracy.
Okay.
And so
'Cause
you
I would
would
get
like,
it.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you would like break down what does that actually mean about
Yeah.
like what do you mean by like you're part of the Machiavellian school? Like are you just like lead with fear instead of love, or like what do you mean? Like because I don't even being saying you're like Machiavellian is kind of like abstract and already like weird. So we could like maybe get into that. That'd probably just be like one sentence, right? Like he would just give you like a brief descriptor.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you would bring up is how, like, I mean, you can anecdotally say that, like, some people in France are upset about the EU. But the idea that France has, like, no power over itself is just, like, obviously stupid. Like, what an
Yeah.
asinine thing to say. Like, good lord. Like, you're just stupid. Second thing you would say is when bringing up that the House of Representatives is a buffer to democracy, you acknowledge that's true because it's not a direct democracy, it's a representative democracy. So the representatives are supposed to kind of like take the abstract ideas of the voting populace. So the voting populace goes to the rep and says, less taxes, please. The voting populace has no fucking clue how that works, right? They're like farmers or whatever. They know how to farm fucking wheat. So you go to the guy who who is specialized in politics and you say, lower my taxes. And he goes, got you, buddy. We're gonna go lower your taxes in the house. Great. They go up there, and then like theoretically they filter out kind of like dumb ideas that the populace has because sometimes the populace is stupid and has they vote for Trump, right? Like sometimes the populace is just dumb, and so you have a government that's like, let's try to make sure that when the population is stupid, we don't have to do what they say. It's like basically one of the goals, right? So you do just acknowledge, but it's not even like a bullet to bite. Like anyone with like the most basic understanding of civics understands that the founders were like super scared of majority rule. So yes, there is like a lot of things against democracy, but that doesn't like stop you from being a democracy. It's not how that works.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you'd point out is that like just because 98% of the House of Congress just like keeps getting reelected, this is not indicative of like a non-democratic process. Like nothing.
Oh.
Right? You know what I mean? Like nothing is like there's just no like that you can't get any information out of that. You know what I mean? Like wow, politicians who are good at their job get reelected. Crazy. Wow, whack. And then you're like done. So yeah, that would be like my point by point discussion. At least like the beginnings of it, because obviously I prefer to go point by point, but you can't do that.
Yeah, no, it's a lot. Like at some point, my eyes just start like glazing over a little bit.
This is why I'm the theory guy.
This is why you're the theory guy. This is your show. Well, like when Coffee and I were watching the like 1v25 Jubilee thing, like we went on. We're pretty good going into that, but this is your field.
Exactly, bro.
Yeah.
I know what Curtis Yarvin's about. I know about like why the government exists the way it does, or like at least the general like outlines of it, So when he says some shit like, "Did you know the House of Representatives has anti-democratic aspects?" You're like, "No fucking shit, dude." Yeah, I read the Federalist Papers. Correct.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue this.
For starters, I appreciate so much that you've understood that there's conviction in my book. You're quite right that there is conviction in my book. Nihilistic narcissism is not my jam. Maybe yours. It's not my jam.
Shots fired.
Wait,
what?
No, it's just like it's just like a red flag for a debate. Like if you like in your first response, you're like, you're a narcissist. That's
yeah.
just like a bad.
It's a
I would
bad luck.
understand.
It's a bad luck.
Yeah, I would understand why the guys decided to upload this as like their first video. Like that makes sense. If the lady's just gonna get like,
Uh,
I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah,
fine to be
yeah.
passionate, but you just can't get like whatever.
snarky.
Yeah, I'm going
Yeah.
to suspect Curtis Yarvin's gonna win. That's gonna be my hypothesis going forward. But
Yeah, I remember not too long ago you were saying he's gonna get bodied, but then you
I said I
stopped.
hoped he was gonna get bodied.
Okay,
But
yeah.
then
Well,
remember,
sure,
and then I
everyone hopes for
paused
that,
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I paused and I'm like, red flag. She's already saying he's
Oh,
an
yeah,
anti-egalitarian, and now it's like she's insulting him. I'm like, okay, I don't think she really.
Yeah.
I don't actually think she knows.
His position.
I'm gonna. Yeah, I feel like she came in with like her pro-democracy arguments,
And then
just
that was
thinks
about
those are, like, and then that was it. She
Yeah.
probably doesn't really understand like Curtis Yarvin's weird ass worldview.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we're gonna find out.
Yeah.
So, let's talk about democracy.
Yeah.
Let's not break down what you said. Let's just be like democracy. Well, I mean, she might be doing that, but still, it was funny that she said that right after what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Specifically. And in order to do that, we have to dig deeper into the meaning of freedom and also
Never mind. She's not. Is she? Do you think she's gonna address what he said?
I mean, technically,
Eventually.
he said democracy and populism are the same thing. So
Yeah.
maybe, but I do feel like she is about to pull literally the no true Scotsman that he brought up, and she's gonna like tack on a whole bunch of bullshit.
This
Like-
is the squid prediction.
Yeah, that's my hypothesis. I mean, I don't know. Like, she's a fucking Harvard professor who teaches about democracy, so
Yeah.
theoretically, she should have the best arguments. But like, the problem is the best argument for democracy is like really boring. You're basically just like, it seems to like be the most stable and
Yeah.
make the most good things, and like that's. But people don't want that argument. What they
Yeah, of
want is
course.
to be like, you have a fundamental right
They like
to
the
life,
they
liberty,
like
and property.
they love the rhetoric.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, look,
It
I'm down
sounds
for
good.
the cool rhetoric. I'm
Yeah,
down
sure.
to be like, democracy itself is like the beautiful beacon that guides the modern world into like, you know, a greater age and all that other shit. I'm down to like go down that rabbit hole. But if you sit me down, you're like, why do you support democracy? I'm like, well, it's super stable. It makes people really happy.
Yeah.
It made like the most successful countries in the world. So that's it. If it failed miserably, I would have not been in favor of it because it would have failed.
Yeah.
So.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
the
Yeah.
meaning of equality and precisely what it is
They
we're
want
trying to
performance,
protect.
not actual politics.
As I begin to do that, let me though also say, I also think there's a problem with the incumbency rate, for sure. Why did I highlight party reform? Precisely because we don't really have competitive elections any longer. So I agree that in many ways our democracy is not functioning to the standard of democracy. Again, that's where we agree. The divergence is in whether the question is regime change to unaccountable CEO monarchs, Trump and Musk, or renovating our democracy. Now, again, back to the root and to the meaning. One of the things that Mr. Yarvin likes to focus on and insist on is that human difference is fundamental and that we should organize our way of thinking about society based on structures of, again, racial hierarchy. And he introduces DNA.
Why would you do that?
Straw man.
Okay, she's gonna lose.
Is she-
No, he's like brought it up before. Like let me put it this way: it's such a like tiny part of his worldview that I didn't even mention it in my video because I was like, "There's like nothing about this." The vibe that I got was he mentioned it in like one fucking blog post, and like ever
Yeah.
since then he has repeatedly said he's not racist and he thinks racists are like he literally has. There's like a quote where he's like. He thinks race realists are like quote a bunch of weirdos or some shit like that. So,
I mean, at least he has that going for him.
yeah, exactly. Like, is he racist?
So-
Like, maybe, but I don't. It's just like not a big enough part of his worldview to like matter. And then the other problem is like, frankly, in the modern age, it's just unless they're like Richard Spencer, and he's literally
Oh
being like,
God.
yeah, unless it's like Richard Spencer being like, to be white is to be a striver, to be an explorer, right? Unless
I forgot he
it's-
existed.
what?
I forgot he existed. Holy shit.
Yeah, he's like a liberal now. I don't know. He's
Really?
going
Wait,
through.
hold up.
Yeah, he's gonna do like a weird ass transformation. Like, unless it's like that blatantly racist, nobody gives a fuck. Like, I'm sorry. Like, even like he's just not blatantly racist enough where I think this is gonna like stick. And I'm pretty sure he's
What it kind of.
it's just,
Oh, go ahead.
no. I was just gonna say it's just so easy to be like, I'm not racist, so this doesn't apply to me. And then you're done. And then like the conversation's over, and she's gonna be like, oh well, actually, in a blog post, and he's gonna be like, I was unclear in this blog post, and I've since condemned it. And here is
She's
2, 3
focusing on
quotes
the
where I-
wrong thing. It's not the main
Yeah, she is.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
exactly. The main point. Now go.
Yeah, it feels
I've been
like
talking too much.
here. I mean, right now, just from the little that they've shown, it feels like someone who would be more so like a politician in a debate, and Curtis Yarvin would be chronically online.
Yeah, no, Curtis Yarvin is way more debate bro than this lady. Like,
Yeah,
it's not even a
yeah.
question. He's way more debate brained. I don't like the fact that she has, like, it's already a problem that he didn't even bring up race at all, and probably wasn't going to. And if it gets brought up, he's just gonna say he's not racist. But now this lady's like, which is, I understand why, because in your head you're like, the racism thing is the easiest thing to get him on.
Yeah.
But if it's like one random fuck off blog post and everyone's here to hear about monarchy versus democracy,
Then
I don't know. I think she's gonna fuck up, but whatever.
As the proof of that point. Now, and he introduces these points as refutations of egalitarianism. Egalitarianism precedes human difference. There is no such thing as human difference without the category of the human, right?
Our oligarchy.
Right?
sure.
Yeah, true, lady.
Now, what is it about the category of the human that we are all members of? That category captures the fact that each of us is a judging creature. We have moral capacity, and we're all trying to make tomorrow better than yesterday. We choose moment by moment, day by day, because we're trying to make tomorrow better than yesterday. In choosing being moral creatures, we are activating our freedom, expressing our desire for it. It is the core of our basic human dignity and what requires protection in order to achieve human flourishing. That is the fundamental ground, the conviction. So yes, there is conviction in my book, 100%. But that conviction is grounded on recognizing again that human equality precedes human difference. Now, this is not to say that we are all the same. To the contrary, we come in all kinds of different sizes and shapes and colors and capacities and etc. We are so various, and that is the beauty of humanity. But we can talk about and appreciate human difference only because of human equality. And then also we have to recognize, of course, that groups are changeable and various, that how people connect evolves over time, and it is impossible to say what strivings and what talents land where within the population. And the only way we can maximize the value of human beings is to maximize our protection of freedom. That's it. And so, what protects freedom? Governing ourselves in our private sphere and governing together with others in the public sphere. And there's only one name for that, democracy. All the rest is a question of engineering. That is what he's really asking about, Mr. Yarvin here, is really asking questions about engineering. And yes, we have a heck of a lot of engineering improvements to bring to our democracy.
Mr. Yarvin, a question.
Any responses to what she said?
I mean,
I'm just dumb. Like she said a lot of words, and it felt almost like more performative than anything. But
yeah, no, there's definitely one first failure is she is prioritizing her like I'm convicted to this idea, which in a speech is, unless I don't understand how to talk to an audience, which
I mean,
I
you
don't know.
have some years experience at least.
I have a few years of, I mean, not succeeding, but a few years of,
Sure.
you know, juggling balls in the air on stream to, you know, keep people in chat entertained. So I like
Yeah.
understand how to communicate effectively to a group of people to keep them interested, generally speaking.
Also, if you're planning on becoming a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. So I think my, like, I would say for the format that she is engaging in, this is probably like one of the least effective ways to do it. And like I don't think she knows her audience. Like
Yeah.
if she's in an audience of her class, like awesome, have conviction. Because I as a
Yeah.
student am like, hell
That'll
yeah,
help.
like
Yeah.
yeah, this lady is
100%.
fucking hyped. I'm hyped. Let's get hyped together. This is great. When I'm in a debate format and the person she's debating hasn't even brought up race, and now suddenly we're talking about race,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just gonna not bring up race, or he'll just deflect and say I'm not racist again. It's just like whatever. And then the other problem is she said it's just a matter of engineering. Like I just don't. She hasn't said why democracy is good. She said
Yeah.
it like promotes freedom. She
Which
said
is also a vague concept.
yeah, which is also super
So-
vague. Or she said like it's about self-governance and allowing you and like those around you to like create society together and all this other shit, which is all fine. But the question that's not like
It all sounds nice, and that's
yeah, like
about
the
it.
problem right now is she is just assuming that these are like universally
Agreed
accepted
upon.
ideas.
Yeah.
Exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And she's in a debate where these are not accepted concepts, like de facto.
Yeah.
Literally
because
the whole entire debate, and she's just kind of restating her position
Yeah.
Exactly.
without even giving
It's like
logical reason.
you have a
to
whole
agree
ass
with her.
book. Say something.
Yeah, exactly. So
You know-
it's like again, I think it's just because people get uncomfortable with like the actual reason why democracy is good, because it's just like it functions extremely well. That's it. I think she's like kind of getting close to that when she's talking about like self-governance and like the engineering. Yeah, because really
But
the,
it's all
the way
vague.
yeah, the way like if I were her, I would be like, first of all, just as like a beginning point, I don't see a reason to doubt democracy because all the best countries in the world, whether we're looking at like just like happiness or like GDP or
Yeah.
whatever else, these are all like democratic republics.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of them are a liberal democratic republic. The most weird it gets is there's like a couple conservative democracies, like small c conservative, that are like not as good, and then there's a couple like vaguely socially democratic countries like Norway and Sweden.
Yeah.
And even that's kind of like a misnomer. They're actually like
Yeah.
super capitalist. They have like a strong
Yeah.
welfare
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
All of these countries are the best countries. So like, to look at the metrics, there's like no reason to think that Curtis Yarvin's system is going to be better.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that'd just be like step one. Like that would be great. Honestly, she should have said that. Like that's what she
Yeah.
should have said. She shouldn't have said all this
You know-
other shit. She should have just been like, if you just look at the countries,
No-
there's no reason. Like the
Not-
countries with No, sorry, go.
Not that I'm rooting for Curtis Yarvin, but part of me hopes that his response was just like, "What the fuck did you just say?"
Yeah, or just be like,
Like,
no,
what?
what he's gonna do is you've already seen what he's gonna do. Is he's like, it's great to talk about these abstractions
Yeah.
of freedom and self-governance and etc. And he's correct. These are abstractions, which is why it's imperative
That should be specific.
that she not even be specific. Like again, my examples aren't even that specific. They're very like, but
Yeah,
they're just
yeah.
true. Like everybody
okay.
knows that they're true. That these are like factual statements.
Yeah. Okay,
Um,
so like
we-
come with receipts.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing you could say is like, well, what about China? And you'll be like, yeah, I mean, they're the manufacturing plant of the world and have like one of the biggest populations. So it's like they have a lot of money.
And they're
But you'd
also
basically be like,
capitalist.
yeah, you'd basically be like, them getting more liberal has made their lives better. Now, like, in Curtis Yarvin wants us to be less liberal.
Yeah.
So why would we accept why would I accept his hypothesis that liberalism bad when every place that gets more liberal is better? Like, conservative democracies are democracies with greater power in the executive, and they are all doing worse than countries that don't have greater power in the executive.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. So this doesn't make sense. Has it been great in a very long time? Our takes on a worldwide stage show it.
It depends what metric you're measuring it by.
Yeah, I mean, we've only gotten like every metric we've gotten better. Like it's only like super recently within like the past like decade or two that things have like slowed down.
Yeah. I mean like
But nah.
yeah, I mean obviously we're still like the richest country Sure.
Yeah.
At least we have the highest GDP. But you know,
Yeah.
if we want to like talk on education, then we're
Yeah.
lower in some.
We like,
I mean,
like,
I feel like we should also talk about the attempted coups that we've done all over the world. I feel like we've definitely affected many countries. Oh my God, we
I mean,
fucked
that's
up the
true.
I mean, in like
South
the
America.
60s and 70s and like maybe the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean they're
I don't-
still going
Well-
through it based from those.
I mean, no, I'm not gonna be like, oh well, get over it, nerds. But I am gonna be like,
Yeah.
I am gonna be like, it seems like we've learned that doesn't, like, long run. This is kind of not good. Like,
Yeah. I mean, our interference in countries wanting to do their own thing is a separate discussion for sure.
Morality. I mean, maybe I don't know. Morality is just so fucking big. But sorry.
Yeah. Our healthcare system is not great, but
Yeah.
the structure.
But basically my contention would just be like, just because we are not as good as other places in some aspects doesn't mean that we're like A, not great, or B, like getting more. I mean, we're getting probably worse like now.
No,
But
yeah.
again, the general trend has been like up, even like with dips.
Sure.
It's still like generally been up. Is my point.
Yeah, that's fair.
Question for you. Obviously, this topic of accountability within your proposed system, that's obviously a question everyone has. You know, how you deal with that problem, namely, how do you make some kind of strong executive, how do you hold him accountable, properly speaking?
I thought that was the second part of the debate. Are we?
No, the second part's about Harvard itself and what Harvard represents, and you know, in
All right.
this
Well,
elite formation
let me
institution.
let me take a step back and kind of let me first respond to Professor Allen's point about equality, which consists of what I would say a lot of relatively unfalsifiable abstractions. To slightly sharpen the point, I would say that if we consider the statement, all men or all human beings are created equal, we can consider that as an abstract expression of philosophy, as a kind of confession of religious faith, or we can consider that as an empirical statement. If we were to consider it as an empirical statement, I would say, okay, if you consider that true, here's a much more true statement. All identical twins are created equal. And
What does that mean?
I mean that all identical twins are basically born genetically equal with the same capacities and the same needs and the same goals. I completely reject the idea that all human beings are, sure, we have many things in common, but the regime, the way of living, one of the basic truths of essentially classical political philosophy, which is being rediscovered to this day, is that there is no system of government that is appropriate for all peoples at all times. And you know, as a reductio ad absurdum, I would point.
This guy is definitely a debate bro or philo bro.
Yeah.
Phil bro.
Yeah.
Debate bro.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised he even brought up the fucking genetics thing. If I was him, I would have just been like, well, one, if I was him, I would just been like, I'm not racist, but maybe I guess he just didn't. Hey, you know what? Maybe he is racist. Maybe I'm giving
yeah.
Curtis Yarvin too much credit. What do I know? That would have been like step one in my response. I would have been like, I am not racist. Step one.
All right, now.
Yeah, moving on. Just to like completely cut out like her argument. from
How do you
under
feel about executive power? Well, first of all, I'm not racist.
racist? Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
To the question of uncontacted tribes. Okay, what is right for the citizens of Greater Andaman Island? Okay, should we invade the Andaman Islands? Should we take away their bows? Should we give them the right to vote? What about the citizens of uncontacted tribes in the Amazon? Is it right for them to be basically rounded up, issued with ballots, and told to vote for the president of Brazil? Will that really be the thing that helps them, basically choosing between Lula and Bolsonaro Jr.? No, I don't think that that's what these people need. And my standard of government goes back to Alexander Pope, who had this great line, for forms of government, let fools contest, whatever governs best is best. I think I messed that up a little. And so when I look at the objective results of governance in this country today, I can't help but observe, our burned out, desolate inner cities. I can't help, but observe there are numerous places in this country where you can go that were clearly flourishing 50 years ago that are no longer flourishing. And in my standard of government, I basically return to Thomas Carlyle's idea of the condition of England question. And, this is an official, this is
Yeah.
This is such a like boomer ass take where he's just like, these cities used to have people and now there are no people. Like, who cares? Shut up.
Yeah.
Who cares? Irrelevant. It doesn't matter. That's like, you're a capitalist. I'm just mad because this just feels like a lie on his part, because he's like, you are a capitalist. You like, under your system, this wouldn't even change. Like, it would be the fucking same because people would just move to better places, which is what they did. Like, you can't even. Like, his own philosophy can't be angry at this. It just doesn't make fucking sense. Because people are allowed to move. Like, and now all he's doing is like just quote farming people that like sound like, educated. And he's like, here's a poet who said something about government. Carlyle, like a fancy Carlyle, that's a fancy name. Like, let's grab that one. Like, who fucking cares? Like, what are you talking about? Jesus Christ. It's so like, this is why she needed to open with, like, objectively, our societies are the best. Because now he's going to be out here spreading this absolute
He's like, oh, I got free reign on this? All right.
Yeah, he's going to, like, say this absolute totally stupid opinion that's like, well, Detroit sucks now, so democracy, we got to get rid of it. Like, it's an idiotic statement.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah, it's a fucking dumb statement. It's like completely idiotic.
It's scorched earth without any safety net.
Yeah, no, it just doesn't, and it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It's an explicit kind of renunciation of statistics. You say that, when you consider the condition of England or the condition of anywhere, look at them and say, how are these people living?
For the most part, pretty well.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
Better than ever. Like, literally.
The government helping them to flourish? Is it helping them to live well? I think one of the things that I noticed most closely in Professor Allen's work is that there's this.
Yeah, but again, it doesn't even make sense, because he wouldn't, like, he would be against, like, the welfare state. Like, in his system, he's against the government helping people. Like, he's asking all these rhetorical questions where his answers would be like, no, the government doesn't do anything, so who cares?
So for the most part.
Sure. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. It's dumb. This is it.
I need a Curtis Yarvin person. I need somebody.
You need a pro Curtis Yarvin person to come up.
I need a pro Curtis Yarvin. I just want to hear what they have to say, and I need to read Curtis Yarvin's books. But
do you want? I mean, it'd be very niche, but I could put up another little topic. It's like Curtis Yarvin sucks.
No, you don't have to. That's like too fucking niche for now.
I know. But maybe someday.
Someday.
Returning emphasis to what might be called a positive liberty, or the liberties of the ancients, which is essentially this idea that exercising political power is a matter of birthright and is a matter of, being very important to the nature of a human being in a civilized society. I'm with Charles I on this, who said, a subject and a sovereign are clean different things. I actually believe that there is a natural desire for political power that is essential not only in our human ancestry, but actually in our simian ancestry, because we observe that chimpanzees live in a very similar way. If you want to be a chimpanzee who spreads his DNA, you better be the chief chimp. And so this desire for power, this importance, this sort of lust for mattering, everyone who writes an admissions, essay to Harvard, wants to make an impact on the world. They want to change the world. They want to do all these things. They want power. And, and for me, that desire for power, which seems to Professor Allen to be a very positive thing and a thing that is entirely benign, I see that actually as a kind of lust, really almost as a sin that is sort of caused great damage to the world and the lives of those now living.
This guy, I will say, he has kind of like a dramatic, almost a dramatic read.
Well, we have, like, when you look at Curtis Yarvin, you need to, like, there is an entire like history. Like
Yeah.
he is. This is like I'm about to just give you a vibes argument.
Yeah,
or,
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. Go for
story,
it.
but
Go
I
for it.
feel like the vibes are immaculate, so I'm gonna say it
Yeah.
anyway, right? Where it's like, what happened is like after George Bush, like the right just fucking died. Like it just was murdered. Like Obama came in and was like one of the most popular fucking presidents, and like generally people were like he did a pretty good job. Like the right just died right at the exact moment when like the internet started to become big, and like I remember when I was like right wing in high school, like every person on the right was talking about how like we're transforming, like we're changing, like we're getting along with the times, like the left is old now.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And like I think they're basically right. Like
Yeah.
the right wing, including the radical right, like figured out the internet
4chan.
way before. Yeah, like
There's
4chan.
so many on 4chan.
Yeah, like Twitter, like they figured out how to like be politically effective on the internet. Like way, like the left is like just figuring it out. Like Donald Trump, like Donald Trump, term 2 Donald Trump, like not even term 1 Donald Trump, term 2 Donald Trump has like woken their ass up, and suddenly the mainstream left is like, oh fuck, we don't actually understand the internet. Like we don't know what's going on. Like we don't know what's like what the fuck's happening right now. And Curtis Yarvin is like the ultimate expression of like guy who invented
shit
the
poster.
concept. Yeah, the shit poster who invented the concept of the red pill, who like understands how to use like irony and rhetoric to like get his point across and kind of like sidestep all these other people. And so he's saying all this like stupid shit about chimps or whatever the fuck else. And he's without actually like making an argument, but he understands that like people like quotes from like smart people, or they like an analogy that like links to fucking nature, like Jordan Peterson and his fucking lobsters,
yeah.
right? Like he
Oh,
understands.
Fucking
He understands.
lobsters, dude.
Yeah, the lobsters, bro. He like understands the rhetoric of like the modern age, and then you have like, it's almost like perfect. You have a Harvard professor who's talking like passionately about democracy, but she like so clearly just does not understand the audience that she's talking to. It's like it's like almost perfect.
Do you think there are more like Yarvin fans in the audience than fans of her?
I don't know.
It's a random
probably.
question. Yeah, I mean,
Probably, I would
because there
guess.
was some reaction to what like Yarvin was saying and stuff, but obviously that's
Well, that's
not a
the other
good
thing is Yarvin's funny. Like he understands how to
Yeah.
be funny. Like that's
Yeah.
another thing is like if you're not funny, at least a little bit in the modern
Yeah.
age,
Yeah.
like
You need to
get
be
fucked.
charismatic. You have
Yeah,
to be. I
exactly.
mean, Donald
100%,
Trump. I mean,
100%.
yeah.
And we're
Donald
in
Trump
the
has really shown that.
Yeah, and we're in the age of like irony right now. Like she,
Oh, yeah.
like that's it's kind of like it's almost like sad that like someone being passionate is like indicative that they don't understand what's going on anymore. Like if you're this like passionate person who's like, we need to do this because this, right? And you're like that, it's like this is an out of touch
Yeah,
person.
yeah,
they, like,
yeah.
They
It's
like,
like
don't
immediately.
understand. Yeah, like they don't understand that you need to be like kind of funny and like kind of edgy, and like
Yeah.
even someone like the song who like gets passionate, he's still like every once in a while he'll just be like, you know, America deserved 9/11. You know, he'll say some like crazy shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
she is like this fucking like Betamax just met like Blu-ray. You know what I mean? Like that's what's happening right now.
Fuck.
People like
I do that.
performers, you know?
Betamax met
Yeah.
Blu-ray. Jesus Christ. I thought of a good. Could Curtis Yarvin have been the start of QAnon?
No,
QAnon.
it's a 4chan mod. There's like a 4chan
Okay,
mod who like everyone thinks did it, and he's like, I
Yeah.
didn't do it, even though it's like
It's obvious.
he's the most likely candidate. Yeah, bread and circuses. I mean, it's not even bread and. I mean, yeah, technically, because it's like entertainment, but it's just like people like entertaining stuff, and like passion's not entertaining because everyone's too much of a bummer to like
Yeah,
be
too
passionate about anything.
There's not
So
much nuance behind the passion.
Yeah, they just want to
Yeah,
have like
it's not
fun.
interesting.
They want to have fun, and they want to be funny, and they want to feel like they're like the Trump mindset again. Because I was like a right winger in high school, and it was like Trump's the goat or whatever. Like, what was so fun about like Trump is that you felt like it was the ultimate like
Meme.
new, exciting,
okay,
something crazy's happening.
Yeah.
Versus Hillary fucking Clinton, like the most like in the system, in the trenches human being you could like.
Video games
like,
are bad.
Yeah, like the platonic ideal of a generic Democrat that's like part of the system has been like placed in front of the guy who's like, you grab him by the fucking pussy, right? And you're just like, and you're like, oh my god, like this is right. That was like you felt like you were part of something. Something new was happening.
So, are you saying you voted for the meme?
Oh, well, I was in high school. I couldn't even vote.
Yeah.
No, but that's my point
part of
is
the
that
meme.
it's like, yeah, is that it was like I was that like that's like the new emotion that people are into in politics. The new emotion is like I'm like rebelling a little bit, but like with a smirk and like a wink and a nudge kind of a thing. Like
Okay,
that's
yeah,
the new
yeah.
vibe.
It's like self-aware irony.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like we're in the post irony. Like this is funny. Like it's funny that we're fucking everything up. Like that's it's not like scary. It's just a like it's hilarious.
Interesting.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
thank fucking God. Like it's literally the like I'm cutting myself to like because I have nothing else to do kind of a thing. Like it's just fun.
Oh my god. You know, realistically, I'm kind of the same, but I mean, it might be because I'm a cis white straight with an asterisk guy. So like I just based on privilege alone, like I have a better chance than a lot of people if like things go to shit. But
You're already lost every right winger who ever existed. But continue.
yeah, that's fine. I don't give a fuck.
I mean, you should. Those are the people we gotta.
Well, then it should rile them up. It's like, oh, he said this. I need to talk some sense into him or some bullshit.
No, they don't even. They just laugh. They just laugh at you and then they move on.
Yeah,
That's the problem. Sorry, no, continue. What were you saying?
Yeah. What was I saying?
I don't know. You're saying you have privilege in society or something.
Oh yeah. But I kind of feel like I should be more scared of the situation. But there's a part of me that's like very invested in what could happen in a way.
No, we're all fucked. It doesn't even matter.
Like
the straight dudes need to get in on it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I mean, no, as a whole, I'm just saying maybe might just whatever. I voted for Kamala only because she got Megan Thee Stallion to twerk for her election campaign. I thought that was funnier than the assassination. Oh, I thought you were about to say funnier than the assassination attempt.
That's funny.
I
Moral
voted for
compass.
Kamala.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a fucking nerd. Moral compass.
True.
Fucking nerd.
True. All right, let's.
I mean, if the moral compass is holy shit, a fucking fascist or wannabe fascist versus a centrist Democrat, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
He's not even calling. He's not even a fascist. He's like a nothing. He's just nothing.
Yeah, I mean, the way he talks.
But it's also like building a more. But like what's being built up is kind of like fascist.
In all honesty, I think he's indirectly like creating a at least a fascist movement of people, you know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I would call it. I don't know if I'd call it fascist, but yes, I would agree. He's at least authoritarian.
Authoritarian, if anything, authoritarian.
That's more.
Yeah, because I don't know if Trump's not centralizing, like all the industries or something like that yet, or
that's true.
Yeah, but whatever. That would be like totally semantics. I will not. If you keep calling him a fascist, I'm not going to be like, actually. But it's just like on a semantic basis. I don't think he is exactly a fascist.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Yeah, that was nice. Because that would be no better than voting for the man who had attacked me. So, I'm sorry to hear about that. But
okay,
let's continue.
Are we down to continue?
I assume you'd like to respond.
I will. Is there time still? Yep. Alrighty. No, I would like to, because I'd like to clear up a couple of confusions. So the first is about the term equality, and the second is about the term power.
Oh boy.
So, for starters, equality. Equality
Let's say
comes in a
something good.
variety of forms. It's really important. Anytime somebody wants to talk to you about equality or egalitarianism, ask them what kind of equality they mean. They may be talking about human moral equality. They may be talking about political equality. They may be talking about social equality. They may be talking about intellectual equality. They may be talking about economic equality, etc. In other words, you don't know what somebody means by equality or egalitarianism until you ask them precisely which concept of equality they're using. Human beings are morally equal in the way that I described. We are all members of the same species. Even those identical twins are morally equal to each other. They are also equal to each other in some other ways that most other human beings are not equal to each other in, but let's not confuse our different concepts of equality. That's really important. And again, anytime you hear anybody critique egalitarianism, ask them to account for what account of equality precisely are they critiquing. And if they can't offer an accurate account of the theory of equality or egalitarianism,
Pause though.
Yeah.
You see what Steffi just did? It's like equal treatment is not always the best. That's what everyone in the audience just thought, and she's not going to address that question. So it's just like Steffi just gave the exact reason why this is a poor way to communicate, because like she's just saying things confidently.
She's just saying things, yeah.
She's just saying things
That's
confidently,
half
which
the
is
battle
chill.
if you think about it.
It was
Say
what?
again?
Oh, I was saying that's half the battle if you think about it, but you also have to
Sure,
say
yeah.
stuff of substance.
Yeah. Or just be like, you just need to tell me like why are we morally, like why should we all be treated morally equal? Why?
Yeah. She's saying a lot of things and not backing them up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or not even not backing them up. It's just whatever.
well.
Yeah. It
so
makes
they're
me want to
critiquing,
die.
you should pass that argument by. So that's the first
Can I
point.
ask a quick check on that?
No, let me make the second point, and then you can
Treatment
come
to
back.
others sometimes damage
Because
them.
you had a lot in what you said. So let me just make the point about power. A couple different categories here. Freedom, self-government, power, and domination. What Mr. Yarvin is attributing to me in the treatment of power is actually the concept of domination.
Oh, no.
Yes, human beings are beset with a drive to dominate others.
What just happened to Seffi?
It's because she did all caps.
Yeah.
clearly-
Nightbot is an authoritarian.
Yeah, he is. Blocking all the caps. Cringe.
Mm-hmm.
We watch that all around us all the time. We're probably watching it in this debate right now between the two of us, coming from both of us in relationship to each other, for sure. Human beings are beset by the desire to dominate. That is a bad feature of human beings. Why? Because the desire to dominate impedes the desire and aspiration for freedom coming from somebody else. The goal, as we seek to protect and support human flourishing, is in fact to achieve spheres of agency for ourselves, for all of us, that we all are able to be full agents. And there's only one way to do that, again, by protecting our private sphere and by giving us the opportunity to co-create the public sphere. It is the only solution to the problem of domination. So, no.
Has she explained why that's the solution?
No.
Okay, and that's the problem.
Or she's like doesn't explain why it's good. I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you can maybe like logically infer that like the way to cease domination is by creating like individual agency like within certain spheres. That's like intuitively you can like arrive at this conclusion based on the fact. But it's just like I almost feel like she's not even like Curtis Yarvin has come in and he is like democracy is bad, get rid of it, and then she just keeps saying like. She's like stating features of democracy, and but Curtis Yarvin's just gonna be like, well, all of those things are bad.
Yeah.
And then she has like failed to provide a reason why it's good. Like outside of this like general acceptance, she's taking freedom as a given, even though it's like you're talking to a monarchist. Like freedom's not a given.
Yeah.
So you need to explain like, why freedom is good.
When I am arguing for political equality, I'm not arguing for domination. I am arguing for a sharing of power in order to protect freedom for all of us morally equal human beings.
On moral equality and power is fine.
On moral equality and power. So sort of trying to tease apart some of these, I would say, relatively tendentious definitions.
Yeah.
First of all, there's a
What is
He's just gonna be like-
tendentious?
He's just saying abstract. He's just
Okay,
like
yeah.
taking apart these abstract ideas.
yeah,
he's just gonna
yeah.
do what he's been doing the whole time. He's just gonna be like, these are abstract concepts. Let me make this concrete with some examples about chimps or some shit.
Yeah,
Like,
something that's not relevant to reality, but
yeah, but it like feels more concrete
Yeah.
than just being like freedom, etc.
yeah.
useful thought experiment here. Surely Professor Allen would not extend the principle of moral equality to chimpanzees. And yet chimpanzees are our cousins. They are, completely related to us, all of us except, I would imagine, except Darwin in this room. And there is, of course, a continuous genetic chain of linkage that traces us back to our simian friends. And so, one of the things, and actually of all people who observed this, it was Stephen Jay Gould, the communist evolutionary biologist, who observed this.
So it
Harvard
feels like it's
communist
going on.
evolutionary biologist.
What did I say? I'm so
And
Trish, I
He
think.
just like
Go ahead. No, you
no, I was
go.
just gonna say he just does his like he quotes a fancy name guy
Yeah.
and then he talks about like animals.
Actually,
Actually,
Excellent.
so
Hey,
like
both sides of this argument feels like it's going nowhere.
well, the thing is, it feels like Professor Allen isn't going anywhere, and it feels like Yarvin is fucking
going
on
somewhere.
he's on a trip.
Yeah, he's at least he has a destination in mind, which
Yeah.
is like democracy bad.
Yeah,
She is just like I think she's just taking too much for granted.
yeah.
Yeah,
and
like if I
Marx
Oh, go ahead.
no,
at least, and he observed, a curious fact, which is that actually there are a lot of missing links between us and the chimpanzee. There's Homo habilis, there's Australopithecus,
The missing link thing is a
Africana.
myth.
oh, what are they called?
What?
No, I'm sorry. I was trying to finish his sentence.
Oh, sorry. You want me to rewind it a little bit?
No, you're good. He was spewing the different types of humans.
Oh, yeah.
Forensis, and we would have a lot of trouble if those more divergent forms were lived.
I bet.
Sorry.
Let her for a life experience.
Sorry, Ben. Yeah, I plan on fixing Nightbot.
Don't worry,
he-
you can-
Curtis
you can
Yarvin
also
stands.
later. He doesn't like Curtis Yarvin. He's a shit poster from my
Yeah.
channel.
Yeah. I figured when you said hey better whatever.
Yeah.
living among us today of deciding, do they deserve moral equality? And so my question, my sort of thought experiment question for Professor Allen is, if we were able to decode the genome of, let's say, Homo habilis, who lived,
What does this
2
have
million
to
years
do with
ago,
anything?
and somehow
I can
implant
explain
that
it.
in a human cell.
Because she just brought up how we're all under the species of
Oh.
human, which is like an arbitrary distinction. Like the real reason why is you would just say like, A, it's arbitrary, it doesn't matter, whatever.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I just arbitrarily chose this, and then Curtis Yarvin's gonna be like, but it's arbitrary, and then whatever. You can just go down like deconstructionist bullshit for a little bit.
Hmm.
The other answer would just be like, well, it's part of the social contract. In which case she has to like not be a vegan, or she becomes a utilitarian and she's like, actually we should care about all these animals and like not torture them, whatever. So like Curtis Yarvin, because he's like online internet bro, probably has like heard all these arguments, so he's like
So he might
more savvy
Yeah.
than she is. She's been able to just say her whole life like, well, all humans are equal because we're all humans. And Curtis
Yeah.
Yarvin's gonna be like, well, where's the line drawn between us and the chimps, lady?
I mean, that was one of my issues with her at the start. I mean, this is why I was like, am I just dumb, or is she just going in circles?
She's just not. She, like I said, she doesn't know the modern world. It's over.
Yeah.
Like those dire wolves you keep hearing about. And would that be a being with this moral equality that Professor Allen describes? Because if basically if humanness is a Boolean quality, as we say in computer science, if it's 0 or 1, there must have been a mother who was not morally equal to us, who had a child who was morally equal to us. And I'm curious as to how that process worked and how her theory deals with that. Secondly, when it comes to power, it's very interesting. We've heard Professor Allen, praising humanity to the skies here, but then we discover that actually this very essential element of human nature, the desire to dominate, the libido dominandi, as they say, is an essential quality of humanity, and Professor Allen thinks it's bad. She actually wants to reform humanity. She wants to create what used to be called the new Soviet man that would not have that desire. What I observed when
He has really gone down this rabbit hole.
Well, basically, like what's happening is we're seeing classic pseudo-intellectual behavior.
Yeah.
Where he is like, let me throw in some Latin. Let me bring up the Soviet man to scare the communist-hating people. I'll quote some philosophers. I'll do some like super generic, basic bitch-ass argument about like where do you draw the line between the evolution. This is like classic
Pseudo-intellectualism,
pseudo-intellectual bullshit where his question is basically just like, you have said that human being as a species is like morally, like the element of being a part of the human species is morally relevant. Why is it morally relevant? And he's just adding on all this other like bullshit to make himself sound smarter.
Yeah.
But he has like this basic ass question that can be answered in like 2 fucking sentences. And then she's gonna fumble the bag because like I said, she's not really like
a debater.
doing anything.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like super sad because then he's like clearly kind of knows how to debate a little bit, so he can just like critique her, and then she's just gonna keep saying the word democracy, and then he's gonna keep critiquing her, and then she's just gonna kind of look like a fool.
It's unfortunate.
when I take Aristotle's 3 forms of government, monarchy, oligarchy, and democracy, the rule of the one, the rule of the few, and the rule of the many. And I think Aristotle kind of made a mistake by saying, okay, there's 6 forms, there's a good form and a bad form of each. I really like them as neutral qualities because I think all of those sort of forms of...
I mean, that's what like pseudo-intellectuals do a lot of the time. That's one of their, whether they realize it or not, that's like what their bullshit ends up doing.
Yeah, well, he's not though, because she specifically said human species.
Yeah,
so like she's already fucked up.
Yeah.
she already made a whoopsies, so doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's just laying into it.
Yeah.
Power, and they are all forms of power, are very, very important. And the principles, I would translate monarchy, oligarchy, democracy in today's terms into the principles of authority or authoritarianism. I translate oligarchy as a concept near and dear here at a university that will not be named, as meritocracy or prestige, and I translate democracy as popularity or populism. And so what I see is that all of these forms are active today, and those who believe that our society should be ruled by prestige, by prestigious institutions, by civil society, are very, very against authority. But what you notice is that actually those institutions are quite unaccountable. Nobody elected Anthony Fauci. Nobody elected Anthony Fauci when he basically supervised the program to invent COVID. No.
I don't.
That's a different discussion.
Yeah, well, because I would just be like, he's like trying. I guess he's just trying to make people think like, oh, we don't have a democracy.
Yeah,
I guess
it's
like the rhetorical point, but it's like
obviously we don't literally vote for every little thing.
Yeah, but then the question would be like, so then I would just be like, so is this a problem? Like, should I be able to vote for Fauci, or I don't know. I would be. I guess I just want to hear if he says Fauci good or bad. Because if he says Fauci's good, then it makes sense why you'd be monarchy, because you're like less democracy good.
Yeah.
But I assume you're not less democracy good. Like, I'm not really sure. I don't know what the point would be of this.
Yeah.
Like, why even bring this up?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Nobody elected Anthony Fauci when he covered it up. Nobody elected Anthony Fauci when he told us to stand 6 feet apart based on some science fair project that...
It just sounds like he has it out for Fauci at this point. He had some pent-up rage.
It's the classic angry, like libertarian angry about COVID thing.
Yeah.
Nobody actually knows where that number came from. And so actually, delegating this authority to prestige, which seemed like a no-brainer earlier in the 20th century, seems like maybe there's actually flaws in meritocracy. Maybe there's flaws in relying on prestige. And so when we look at what we call democracy today, what I see it as essentially as a sort of guided democracy, the way we talk about Putin's democracy. Putin's democracy is democracy guided by monarchy. Our democracy is democracy guided in the formula that Walter Lippmann came up with about 100 years ago, is democracy guided by prestige, guided by civil society. And I'd like us to address that squarely.
Sure. Professor Allen, just also given time, perhaps if we could focus particularly on what you described as the engineering problems of democracy, which Mr. Yarvin seemed to kind of bring out in the second half.
Well, I know we were also drifting into our second topic there too, which we're probably
A little
getting close
bit. Yeah,
to in time.
yeah.
So I'll just make a very brief comment about Aristotle, because I cannot let it go by having a hash made of Aristotle. That is something I cannot abide, because I am very fond of Aristotle. So it's really important.
Okay.
Those 6 forms matter a lot in Aristotle: monarchy, oligarchy, and democracy. The division between the good and bad is the difference between rule for the sake of the people who are ruled versus for the sake of the ruler. And the thing that Aristotle thinks will achieve rule for the sake of the ruler, or rather the ruled, the people who are being ruled, and get them good government, is law, limits, and accountability. All right? So that distinction in Aristotle is absolutely critical. The difference is really between tyranny and monarchy, which is a good form because limited, because bound. And monarchies can be limited and bound. Take British constitutional monarchy, take how it developed in the 18th and 19th century. It has produced a form of good rule and good governance for people. Democracy is not the only form that can do that, but limit, rule, those things are necessary, and rule of law.
What do you think of her rebuttal that time?
She fucked up because then she just immediately conceded, like, oh, actually, there could be a good democracy.
Oh,
which is like
yeah.
the whole point-
Or
it's
a
like the
good
whole point of the
monarchy.
argument. What the
That
fuck?
could be a good argument.
Why'd
Or
you
a
do
good
that?
monarchy. Yeah.
Yeah, don't do that. Just say, like, Aristotle was wrong about there being a good type of monarchy. And then let's move on.
Got
Because
it. All right.
even,
I think
like, England's not even like a monarchy anymore. Like,
No.
the Queen is like a tourist attraction at this point.
Yeah, figurehead.
Yeah.
given where you were going, we can get a little bit into our second topic, which deals directly with Harvard, but it could be interpreted broadly, as Mr. Yarvin was saying, as prestige institutions or civil society. The main question here, resolved, Harvard's model of elite formation, grounded in a contested balance between merit and equality, undermines the democratic legitimacy of the political and cultural systems its graduates go on to shape. Now, given how the coin toss went, Mr. Yarvin, you're allowed to speak first.
All right. Well, there's a lot to unpack there, as we say. You know, one of the things I was curious, to sort of see answered in Professor Allen's book, and maybe I didn't see it, but I was sort of curious as to whether, Professor Allen's ideal of democracy supports a Harvard admissions department that judges applicants by the color of their skin rather than the content of their character.
Okay, this is wrong. It has been unconstitutional to discriminate based on race in the United States since, what was it? It was like Berkeley. Fuck, what was it? It was like UC, Berkeley, discrimination, Supreme Court case. Let me see. There we go. It was University of California versus Bach in 1978, and what it was is it was a white guy applying to the University of Berkeley like medical school, and Berkeley was discriminating based on race, but it was to like encourage black people to enter into their school because of past discrimination. He sues, he wins, and the Supreme Court basically says, okay, you can't actually discriminate on race. That's bad. However, if you let's say race did have an impact on your life, which it does, undeniably, and you're like, I am a black person who grew up in like rural Georgia or whatever, where like I was, people used to lynch black people.
Yeah.
And so I had to learn certain skills, and these are the skills. And they explain the skills. That was okay. Other thing that's okay is to basically, I think, prioritize like poor people, because like the amount of money you have is not a protected class, basically. So like you can discriminate.
ideally.
You can kind of discriminate based on like money, but that like
Yeah.
both ways. So like you could prioritize poorer people over richer people.
Yeah.
And there's just more poor minorities. So
Yeah.
there's going to be an uptick in minorities if you like just writ large increase the amount of poor people in your school. So you actually can't have policies, and the Equal Rights Act prohibits businesses from having policies that discriminate based on race. So it has actually been illegal in the United States for businesses to discriminate based on race since like 1964, and it's been unconstitutional since 1978 to discriminate based on race.
Right,
so you can take race into account based on like how race has affected this person's character, which is taking in the quality of their character. So he's wrong.
So he's just straight up wrong.
He's just straight up wrong. If there is any instance where it has ever happened, you can sue. So he's just wrong.
So I mean, we'll see if Professor Allen actually like hits on that then.
She's not a law professor. She's fucked.
Fair.
I don't know. That's my vibe. I feel like she's probably like a poli-sci professor.
Yeah, well, she's like he's the moderator said like an ethicist. I don't remember.
So, or maybe she's a philosopher. I don't know.
Yeah, she also she was like also into philosophy. I don't know.
That's a critically important question for these institutions, because of course when we see Harvard taking the role of elite formation, we're essentially looking at the naked reality of an essentially oligarchic institution. Obviously, Harvard, founded in 1636, is considerably older than the United States of America, and I don't think anyone has ever suggested holding Harvard accountable to voters in any sense. In fact, I think most people at Harvard would be repulsed at the idea of letting elected politicians, soiled by filthy democracy, choose Harvard's admissions department.
So funny.
And I think that's sort of a reflection on the way that this term democracy has drifted so far from its literal meaning. And of course, Professor Allen is I'm sure aware that for most of the history of the term democracy, it was considered a negative term. The founders used the term democracy to mean what we now call ochlocracy, essentially, the bad form, ruled by mobs for the mob's own interest, as you might say. And when I look at the sort of the way that our system works today, whether it's by the permanent administrative state, which is, like Anthony Fauci, and there are many Faucis out there, is absolutely shielded from democratic accountability. Moreover, attempts to return that.
I mean, that's just not true. Like, if you, under the executive power in the Constitution, the president has the total authority to fire, like, basically anybody in an executive branch, especially so theoretically, he can't fire everybody who's, like, under the people he appoints, but Fauci is, like, within the sphere of people he appoints. So yes, you can fire Fauci, or you can fire the guy above Fauci, and then make Fauci do something else. So this is wrong. This is an incorrect statement.
It seems like his arguments are based off a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, well,
or just incorrect shit.
He's really preying on the problem that people like don't understand, that we are a republic with democratic characteristics and not a democracy with republic characteristics. Like fundamentally, we have representatives. Who do things that we tell them to do, like theoretically do what we tell them to do, but like the representative is still independent. Like if I vote for someone in the House of Congress for their two-year term, like theoretically they could just do whatever the fuck they want for 2 years, and then they just won't get elected next time, right?
Sephi Bunny says she teaches classics and political science, and she has a thesis titled Intricate Democracy that I don't particularly have the energy to read at this moment. That's fair.
Okay.
So she does political science.
Yeah, I would trust people in political science don't know shit. Okay. As someone who went to the best university for political science, literally when I went there, it was #1 in the United States for political science. People don't know shit. If you're in political science, you have total dumbasses. There was There was some lady who was like talking about like name one time, like America, like what was it, like taking over a country basically, like resulted in a good thing. You can't list one time, and of course I'm an asshole, so I'm like, Japan, that's one, and South Korea. Both of those ended up really fucking great. So, like you're just wrong. I'm not saying it's good, but like this is a person who's just saying shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That to the accountability of the voters under the complicated and not entirely successful regime of the elected president Donald Trump have been met with really great resistance. And so when I look at this system, I'm basically like, we find the word democracy being used to actually mean oligarchy. And that strikes me as very, very Orwellian. And I would like to know what is not Orwellian about that.
Professor Allen?
Well, there is a lot to unpack there, as Mr. Yarvin said.
What?
It's just so funny. He's literally doing the like, America is Orwellian, changed my mind. Like that's what he just did, which is just so funny. To be like, democratically elected representatives is Orwellian. Like it's just so fucking funny to say.
Interesting that he referred to Trump's second term as a regime. Well, I'm assuming he's not like. Does he support Trump?
He said he voted for Biden. But at the same time, one, that could just be a lie.
Yeah.
Two, I think it's like I
can't imagine he would like what's going on, regardless.
I mean, why wouldn't he? The executive is concentrating power. That's
well,
like
yeah.
He would be against shit like tariffs because he's like still a free market capitalist fella.
Yeah.
He'd be against that, but it would just be like, how is he like balancing?
Or maybe he's just unafraid to use the word regime.
Yeah, it could. I mean, theoretically you could say like Joe Biden's regime. There's negative implication, but it's still like literally correct.
Sure. Yeah.
So maybe just let's get some facts laid out first, and then we can come to the question of what we should all be hoping for from our great universities. So Massachusetts is in fact the actual founder of Harvard College and has the final authority for Harvard College. And the state legislature directly did take responsibility for Harvard through the middle of the 19th century. So in that regard, one can't say that it has never been the case, that there has been very direct and clear civic connection for Harvard. And to this day, without any question, the university carries a very strong sense of responsibility for its community. Does it always act successfully in relationship to that responsibility? No, it does not. And there is plenty of work for reform internally in our universities. So that's the first thing to say. Second thing to say is about
like the first good response.
Between
oh my God.
And democracy more generally. What should be our goals? What is the history of that? How can we get it right in the present day? The Harvard College was set up in the wake of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, also actually having across its schools established public education, whose main purpose was civic education and the development of civic strength. The purpose was to make sure that young people understood the laws. Why? Again, to protect freedom so that nobody would be subject to arbitrary treatment because they wouldn't understand the laws. So from the very beginning, the project of education in Massachusetts Bay Colony and the state of Massachusetts ultimately was, again, the project of freedom connected to the structure of the law, and with education institutions having the job precisely of cultivating the kind of civic strength, both of knowledge and relationship, that could support a healthy, self-governing society. Now, this idea was not just an idea of the colonies, it was also an idea that George Washington was, again, one of the first people to pick up. George Washington wanted to found a national university, and in his aspiration for that university, it would have people from every single state there. That is to say, he sought geographic distribution because his belief was the education that would yield civic strength for a healthy republic, a healthy constitutional democracy, would in fact weave together peoples from across the country. I go through all of this to make the point that the resolution as crafted has a false premise in it. It has in it the premise that egalitarianism and excellence are in tension with each other. They can be, they don't have to be. Excellence and talent are everywhere, and it should be the job of great universities to find that talent wherever it might be. If you didn't find a defense of affirmative action in my book, it's because I have not defended affirmative action. Not now, not over the past 10 years. What I have defended is the idea that universities should have a merit threshold, and above that threshold have a lottery by geographic or socioeconomic categories. So yes, there are lots of different ways to approach the question of how precisely we do admissions, but what is above all important is that as we think about the role of universities in our collective life in this country, the job is, yes, to provide research and knowledge and innovation that support national security, that support economic competitiveness and health, but also that just gives us, I'd say, a two-legged bench when we should have a three-legged stool. We also need our universities to cultivate civic strength. That does require our ability to weave relationships on our campuses among all members of our democratic community across all kinds of backgrounds, including differences of viewpoint and perspective. So there's a heck of a lot to say, but without any question, the ability to protect the life of the mind is also central to protecting freedom. That's the work that we have to focus on.
Any comments?
That was great. That was a good ass answer. This is like the first time she's addressed something. Amazing. We love it.
And she's maybe this is a little thing, but she also like sounds kind of different now. Like at first it sounded like she was kind of like performing, giving a speech, and now she's like seems more like focused.
Yeah, no,
Her
this is like a
cadence has
focused
changed.
response. Say again?
Yeah.
I said her cadence has changed.
Yeah, no, it's just
It was
like
kind of pompous
deliberate.
at first, but now it's kind of like more straightforward.
Yeah.
Like, all
Yeah,
right,
no.
let's
is-
get down in the nitty gritty.
Which
Yeah.
is what she should have been doing from the start, obviously. But
Exactly.
I know. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, where he was like, "You're not accountable to democratic institutions." She is like, "Yes, we are. Massachusetts rules over us. We are constantly working with the legislature and promoting civil society." You're like, "Damn, okay, get fucked, Yarvin. Cry about it." And then he's like talking about, and then he's like, he didn't like bring up affirmative action, but she did like, she was kind of just like, "I know what you're getting at, bitch." Like,
Yeah.
She
affirmative
brushed
action
it
is
off, and
stupid.
it was really well done.
Yeah, no, she's like, affirmative action is dumb. Like, what we should do is we should have a merit threshold. And, like, she's just explaining how she like disagrees. I'm
Yeah.
like, all right,
This is actually good.
yeah, this is a good one. Good job, lady. It took you like a little late to the game, but you did it.
But
you
well,
go.
let's see if she could sprint to the end.
Yeah.
True,
Let
Seppi.
me, I hear a lot of abstractions there. They're very beautiful abstractions. But in order to make some of the history concrete, let me tell a brief
Oh,
history
God.
story here. Does anyone in the room recognize the name Robert Califf? Wow. Back room, we got one way in the back with the beanie. All right. What about the name Increase Mather? What about the name Cotton Mather? There we go. Cotton Mather has a, and as a failed child prodigy myself, I have enormous respect for this. Cotton Mather, besides being the son of Increase Mather, Harvard president, was actually the youngest person ever to matriculate at Harvard, and he entered Harvard at the age of 11. He was
impressive.
generally recognized as a genius.
Crazy.
He was also the son of the president of Harvard. They respected, heredity in those days as well. Cotton Mather expected to become the president of Harvard, but he never did. And here is why, which is that
Steffi has a question.
So his background is he went to UC Berkeley for computer science. He had like excelled in school he wasn't like as much of a child prodigy as going to Harvard at 11.
Yeah.
But he was definitely like one of the smartest kids in his class, and he was like early in the Silicon Valley scene, before going off and becoming like a
weirdo.
schizo poster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. He's not as much of a child prodigy, but he was definitely like super fucking like whip crack smart when he was younger.
I don't know this man.
you familiar with the Salem witch trials? So it turns out that the Salem witch trials were, an epiphenomenon of Puritanism. We've all heard the phrase, "till the stock of the Puritans fail," was an epiphenomenon of the radical Puritanism that erupted in Massachusetts after the end of the Dominion of New England, the overthrow of James II, and of Governor Andros. And many, phenomena that were, very strange and bizarre, such as the belief in witchcraft, the idea of what was called spectral evidence, really flourished in New England at this time. Of course, Harvard was quite an old institution at that time. And the way in which the witch craze ended was really remarkable. It was due to this one man, Robert Califf, who was a merchant. He was not an academic. He was basically a citizen of Boston, and he was like, this is crazy. And he wrote a book called More Wonders of the Invisible World, which is a commentary on Mather's book, Wonders of the Invisible World, which is all about the action of demons. He could not get this book published in Massachusetts. He had it published in England, and it was brought back to Massachusetts, and there, I think in the year, sometime in the 1690s, I forget the exact date, that book was burned in Harvard Yard by Cotton Mather. And yet, basically, Harvard's ideal of veritas, truth, seems to be much more important than all of the other ideals Professor Allen has regarded put together. And I think the lesson of Robert Califf, who brought about the end of the witch craze single-handedly by standing up and speaking the truth and being unpopular, being canceled, as you might say, was that he was like, you know what? Actually, I believe in Harvard's ideals more strongly than Harvard does at the moment. And I will basically come to Harvard, I will come to the people of Massachusetts, and I will try to restore these ideals. And the witch craze ended. Cotton Mather attempted to sort of spin it. He was like, oh, I was really a moderate witch hunter. I didn't believe in spectral evidence in all cases. But his reputation was permanently tarnished as a result of the witch trials, and he never became president of Harvard. And so, I find that very inspiring in a way, because I see that these fundamentally aristocratic and completely non-democratic...
Is he trying to compare modern-day Harvard to that?
So, quench. Everyone, you need water. Get water.
Oh.
We've been quenched.
Oh,
So, here's what he's
you
doing.
son of a bitch.
Yeah, here's what he's doing. He is basically trying to sow seeds of doubt into Harvard.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, well,
obviously,
he's like, one time Harvard supported witches or killing witches, which is stupid. And he's trying to be like, I'm the guy who is telling you not to burn witches. That's like it. That's the point of the story. Which is not very compelling, I would say.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
really.
Like, what does that have to do with now?
Yeah, he's basically just trying to be like, he's like, I'm the guy taking truth to Harvard.
Okay, I just again, I'm listening to this. I'm like, am I dumb?
No. Trust me, it's a very simple analogy where he's just like, I'm the guy bringing truth to Harvard.
So you could like respond into like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. You just be like, "That's crazy, bro. Cool story." Cool. Like, because what he just said is irrelevant. And then to answer Steffi's question about they put a computer science against a poli-sci, the professor's poli-sci, he was computer science, but he's like super popular among right-wing neo-reactionaries, national conservatives. J.D. Vance really likes him. It's like the vice president is friends with this guy.
Yep. Thank you, Steffi.
And he has like so much quenching. And
so thirsty.
Yeah. And so he has like a massive influence on like the new right. He's like the intellectual, like the right is getting intellectual basically. They're philosophizing, and this is their philosopher.
That's unfortunate.
I know, it's a bummer, dude.
I don't know if it's worse. I
don't know if it's worse or better than being like mega Christian or something, but because I'm pretty sure he's an atheist. But you know what? The National Christians, they took Curtis Yarvin's shit and slapped it together with their Christian shit. So. It's like the worst of everything.
Democratic institutions are actually capable of that level of self-renewal. And that's what I hope for. That's what I hope to see when I come to Harvard or another university of similar reputation, is that I hope to see that genius for self-renewal there. And I think that genius has to sort of contend against the corruption of the immense power that Harvard has and its immense ability to set public policy. And I think that power has corrupted the mission of truth.
Professor Allen.
Well, I think you'd find much agreement that the spirit of renewal is to be welcomed on our campus and on other campuses. I think that's not a controversial point. And the question really is what the work is to be done. It
I'll be
seems
right
to
back.
me that America's universities do need a new social contract with the people of America. And there are a few elements to that. For starters, it is important that as a part of working on that renewal, we also all recognize the importance of defending academic freedom, freedom of inquiry, and the private rights, constitutional rights of civil society institutions. I will use that phrase, civil society, universities being anchor to the fabric of civil society, and civil society being, in fact, the space for freedom. And as we work on defending those things, then their question is, where also do we need to work on renewal? We have fallen short, I would say, because of the problem of technocracy. The problem of technocracy is the problem of expertise disconnected from real realities, what people are experiencing, and without the humility that goes with making recommendations for the world at large, the inability to test them appropriately with full range of stakeholders and perspectives. That is something that we do need to...
I saw your face just like starting to...
Yeah, no, this is just like so much. Well, one, she's throwing shade at like Elon Musk and all that, which is like cool.
Oh,
That's fun.
absolutely.
So he's like, that's
Yeah.
great.
The-
Yeah.
The other thing is like this is I don't know if she's doing it on purpose or not, but she is definitely like, yeah, like inadvertently or advertently thrown so much fucking shade at Curtis Yarvin, who's just like a trumped up tech bro who
Yeah.
read some libertarian literature and now he's like, I understand the world, right? Like, so it is. I was just laughing because I was like, I don't know if she's doing this on purpose, but she's kind of like roasting the fuck out of him.
Oh, no,
in
it's
like the
great.
classiest way I've ever seen someone roast the fuck out of
It's
somebody.
like, okay,
that was
maybe she does know what she's doing.
Yeah, like I don't know if she
It's
did it
hard
on
to
purpose.
tell.
I don't think she
I don't...
was like, damn, bro, you just fucking like. And if Curtis Yarvin responds, he just looks like a bitch. So he just has to kind of has to sit there and like seethe for a little.
Oh, my God.
Funny.
Yes.
improve on without any question. We also certainly need to improve on our ability to provide opportunity and to establish clarity that there is fairness in our procedures for admission. I've already alluded to my own approach, an approach I've been arguing for more than a decade. But with regard to opportunity, we have to tackle the problem of cost. I believe we ought to be experimenting with 3-year degrees instead of 4-year degrees, which would bring the expense burden down considerably, quite rapidly for families. We would also be able to have more people come to campus if we were able to deliver an education in 3 years. And that would give us the opportunity both to serve more, but also to connect more broadly across the fabric of our country and our society. And then lastly, I'll repeat myself, I think we really have to be able to educate for civic strength, and that means beginning the picture of our education, our work, by recognizing that our context and our goal is to be oriented by the ideal of pluralism. We are a pluralistic society. We bring to our campus people from all backgrounds, of all kinds. We're diverse in our identities and our ideologies. And in that context, the goal is to develop a culture where we're capable of civil disagreement, mutual learning, hard and difficult discussions across lines of difference, and able to cultivate, I would argue for, a culture of mutual commitment to one another, holding each other with mutual respect, but also shared commitment to constitutional democracy, constitutionalism, rule of law, nonviolence, and full inclusion. So that is all work I think we need to do to establish a new social contract between ourselves, Harvard, and the rest of America's universities, and the American people.
Perhaps on the point of technocracy within prestige institutions like Harvard.
Sure. Well, I don't believe in pluralism. I believe in veritas, and to the extent,
Could you...
Truth.
What is that?
He believes in truth. is
Oh,
what he's
okay,
saying.
Veritas. Okay, yeah. I have heard that before. Never mind.
Yeah, so he's like, I don't care what the majority thinks. I care about what's the truth.
I mean, like,
Uh,
sure, but
Yeah, no, I mean it's just a
true.
snarky little.
It's like it's just your truth.
Yeah, it's just being
Right.
snarky.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even your truth. It's just he's just like incorrect about stuff.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's
His opinions are wrong.
Yeah, he's just incorrect. Like his understanding of history is like stupid. It's just not like it just doesn't.
It's
it
very
like, doesn't bear out
it's-
at all.
It's very like specific things like that don't
It's-
really connect.
Yeah, it's the ultimate, like, he's clip chipping like
yeah.
history itself, right? Like he's taking like a couple things out of context and being like, oh,
Yeah.
democracy's bad. And I don't even think he really establishes democracy. Like that was the problem with the first half of this debate. He wasn't even just establishing democracy was bad. He was just like critiquing what she was saying because she just wasn't saying like that much.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like in the second half, she's like, it's like been reversed, where he's just kind of like giving. It's very funny that she's like, "You're so abstract," and then he's like, "What? Does anyone know the son of the first guy who founded Harvard? I am the dude who fought against the witch trials."
It's
Right?
It's like,
So he's
all right.
yeah, he's like completely gone back to like total abstract. He is now
It's
like the
like-
dude being totally abstract because he has like
Yeah.
nothing to say right now.
It's like, is there like a little mushroom vendor or something in the area?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That pluralism between truth and error is no pluralism at all. On the subject of pluralism, though, I would say that there's a line from Burke in that a constitution is a contract between the dead and the living, and one of the things.
How many times is he gonna say a quote? Holy
A
shit!
contract between the dead and the living. Well,
Who?
I get it, I think, but
I'm not even rolling my eyes at
What's
that.
the-
Like,
yeah.
how many times do you just need to
Needs
like quote a
something.
dude?
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up, bro. You're such a quote farmer. Like, holy shit, just make
Yeah.
a point.
He was just talking. Well, he was just like talking about it's like I only no pluralism, only truth, but he's only just talking about other people's views.
Yeah, like it just doesn't.
So
Whatever.
it's like a little hypocritical, I guess.
He's just not. He's just a quote farmer. He's like not actually
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
anything.
Yeah.
things that we see basically in our own time, and one of the things I was very shocked to discover by just getting into a lot of the primary reading ourselves, is the immense narrowing in the set of permissible political and social perspectives that has taken place not just in this country over the last 10 or 20 years, but over the last 100, 200, 300 years. There are many, many perspectives that are simply no longer represented in this world that were, I think
I love this. Pause. I just love this because he's literally he's pretending like this is a smart point. He's literally just coping so fucking hard right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Where he's just like, there are no libertarians in my universities, and I'm mad. It's so good.
Talk to your therapist.
Yeah, he's so fucking salty that he's like, why isn't there a libertarian Harvard? Where? Because maybe it's
There's
like,
probably a reason
maybe
for that.
because libertarians aren't as educated.
no, yeah, or like
Yeah, or I don't know.
libertarianism's just. No, I mean, there's plenty of educated libertarians.
Yeah,
like,
obviously,
because libertarianism's
Oh,
just
yeah.
like dumb. Like
It's
just stupid.
Yeah. I'll side
Like
note
those-
her technocracy comment reminded me of a song I have sent to Coffee.
Technocrat. You'll have to send me that one again.
I kind of want to see it too.
Which,
So send it to Coffee, and then he'll send it to me.
All right, resume.
the trial of Julius Evola after World War II, where he said he was charged for his convictions, and he said, my convictions are only what everyone considered right and natural before the French Revolution.
That's crazy. He just quoted Julius Evola. First of all, he said his name wrong. He said Julius Evola. I think that's a fucking dog whistle. We just got dog whistled right now, okay? Anyone who's quoting Julius Evola in a non-negative light, that's a dog whistle and a fucking half right there. Julius Evola is an insane traditionalist who believed in racist magic, okay?
Oh, good.
Like Julius Evola has this great quote about justice. It's like the fascist who believed in racist fucking magic like has a great quote about justice. Go fuck yourself. Like, what are you talking about?
Is if you were like in the other chair, you'd just be like,
No, literally, that's bro. Did you see my face as soon as you said
Yeah.
his name? I was like, what the fuck? We're talking about Julius Evola. That's crazy.
Rates by Penelope Scott, the one I just mentioned, wanting to make you all listen to.
oh yeah, I looked at the lyrics. It's great. So just looking at the lyrics.
And I don't really see the convictions of Julius Evola or Joseph de Maistre, you know, well represented at Harvard, which is not a problem if they're erroneous. But if they're not erroneous,
we're being dog whistled so hard right now. This is crazy. The views of the fascist guy who thought the earth was hollow and that inside was a white supremacist Aryan race who used fucking white magic to create Hyperborea. Yeah, no shit, that's not in Harvard. Are you fucking stupid? Bro, I'm sorry that no Harvard professors are teaching us about fucking Agartha and Atlantis, okay? Because they're not real. Jesus Christ. Oh my God.
So that makes me wonder what else, like what other shit he actually believes in that he's just not mentioned or talked about yet. But this is like really starting to open up a hole to dig into.
Yeah, because nobody knows about Julius Evola except for schizo posters, like me, okay? I know about Julius Evola because crazy fascists know about Julius Evola.
I see.
Like Julius Evola's thoughts don't, unless outside of being like, look at this crazy shit. Even the fascists, my understanding is even Mussolini was like, because he was an Italian, like Evola had like a big influence on like the Italian fascists. Even Mussolini was like pissed that this crazy schizo fuck was talking about like Agartha and Hollow Earth.
Like, what do you?
But Mussolini was like, shit, great. We have a crazy person who's taking over like parts of my party. Awesome, great. So yeah, whatever.
Even Mussolini is just like,
Yeah, even Mussolini didn't like Julius Evola.
then there is indeed a problem. And in terms of the the question of technocracy and the sort of the effect of power on Harvard, I'd like to come back to this case of COVID because I think it actually tells us enormous.
Go ahead.
If I was in her chair, I would have slam dunked his ass with that Julius Evola shit.
I mean, maybe she will. But
no, she won't. She's probably not gonna know. Dude, nobody knows who Julius Evola is because he's like a niche fringe crazy person. I would have been like, okay, first, Julius Evola, are you crazy? What? Sorry, continue. You can go now. I'm done.
No. Honestly, the most like entertaining part of all this for me is your like reactions to it, which you do make reaction content more or less.
Yeah, it's just such a crazy thing to say.
Amount about the way our society is governed. I would say that COVID, really is sending us the same message about the way we are governed that Chernobyl sent to the Soviet Union, except it killed a lot more people than Chernobyl. We can't really ignore the fact that virology invented COVID. We can't really ignore the fact that the best virologists, the top virologists, both created it and covered it up. And when we look at the cause of that, blaming individuals, scapegoating individuals, saying, oh, this is Fauci's fault, I don't believe that at all. I believe that it is actually a fault of the system. And what I observe of this system is that it is essentially the way that science is governed in the post-war society is to say, okay, here you're a scientist. You're not here to just be abstractly curious. You're here to solve a problem.
Yeah.
And what they wound up doing when saying scientists, you're here to solve a problem.
All you need is like one counterexample, such as like the internet.
Yeah. Well,
like,
we can
the internet.
I mean, we can argue whether or not the internet was a good idea, but
yeah, but
I
mean.
know what you mean. It's like
it's so easy to cherry pick. Like here, first of all, I'm not conceding that it was made in like a lab in Wuhan.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Well, let's assume it was.
Yeah.
Like, who fucking cares?
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
Like, private businesses used to make houses with asbestos. Do we get rid of, like, private businesses? No. Are you stupid?
Let's see. Fish were getting lead poisoning in, like, the Arctic circles because of our fucking gasoline or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. We used to have lead. We had lead paint. Like, people used to make fucking radioactive plates because they glue in the dark and they thought that was sick, but it's radioactive.
Funny enough, those are actually pretty safe. Not for the people making them. Not for the people making them.
No, not for the people making them. But you
actually went to a vintage shop. 2 days ago with my friends, and they actually had some uranium glass. That was cool. But anyway, go ahead.
No, It is pretty sick, but you get my like you can't have this like both ways, and then it just does it like also doesn't make any sense to be like, man, all these governments, they like suck, so let's make the government like control everything. It like doesn't make sense.
Mm.
Like it doesn't, the math is not adding up. I don't understand what the point is. I need to read his book, clearly.
Oh, you
I
had
assume he has a point.
Yeah,
I assume he
yeah.
has. Like I always assume people are intelligent. That's like the safe bet. You should always assume someone is
Yeah.
smart, but maybe he's just like a fucking dumbass. I don't
A
know.
pseudo intellectual.
Yeah, I mean he is that, but some
but-
look,
Oh,
some
that's
intellectuals
cool.
can still have like a good thought process.
Mm.
Problem is that they created a culture of grantsmanship where a virologist, is out there to say, wow, there's a very serious problem and I deserve public funds for solving this problem. And that went from SARS-1 being a serious problem to saying, oh, well, more coronaviruses could mutate to become dangerous, viruses, to saying, well, let's mutate these viruses ourselves to kind of help them along.
Source?
Yeah, I need a source on that. I mean, again,
Yeah.
what he's doing is he's playing into that concept that I brought up in the beginning, where he's like
Seed of
government
doubt.
institutions. Government institutions are decivilizational because they like pursue their own power and like fulfill,
Yeah.
like get bigger. And this would be like part of the decivilizational. This would be like an example, basically, is what he would say
do
of
you-
that process.
Do you think he believes in like the governments of the world trying to depopulate the world at this point or something?
No. He would be like, it's an impersonal process of like the government is constantly trying to like get more power. Like every institution of government is trying to like get more money and
Okay.
get more power, and which leads to like more taxation and like more regulation
gotcha.
and like right. So it's just like that's basically what he was saying, and then he'd motion to be like the government's only got bigger.
Mm.
But then it's just like completely is irrelevant because it's like society's gotten so much better. So like who cares? Fucking whatever.
To show what could happen accidentally in
Never seen
nature.
Malice where
And so
it's
they sort of, transgressed from basically being there to cure viruses to being there to create viruses. And then they realized early in 2020, and if you look at their Slack messages, you'll see this, they realized very clearly that it was very likely that this had come out of Wuhan. Yes, it was a Chinese experiment, but it was actually a Western, sort of research project. And then they made this very, very culpable decision to really behave in an essentially criminal way and cover that up. And so when you look at the incentives of experts, I want to sort of go back and say, again, you have these three forms of governance. You have authority, governance by command, by domination, as Professor Allen would say. You have governance by prestige, and you have governance by popularity. And the initial progressives who established this system, in 1900, the idea of professors setting public policy was unheard of.
It's impressive to me that she just keeps a straight face through all this.
I
as
just
well.
keep staring out. Well, I don't even. What is he?
But also, yeah, what
does
does he
he-
say?
I don't know what he means. Well, he's like professor setting public policy. Like, when did that happen? I don't know. Like, they just comment on it. I don't even.
Yeah.
Give me one example of a professor setting public policy, besides just this, outside of just like talking to students and changing their mind, which is just democracy. So who fucking cares?
So Curtis Yarvin comes across as the person. He's your like source, and then he just thinks you're the idiot. Or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I had this one anecdote, bro. Don't
Yeah.
you? Or he's like really anti Noam Chomsky. I bet he'd tell me like, well, what about Noam Chomsky, bro? Noam Chomsky influenced the electorate a lot, and you'd be like, yeah, because he wrote a book and gave public speeches. It wasn't because he was a fucking professor. Like, that was just incidental to what he was up to.
That's so dumb. Oh my god.
Yeah.
And people looked at the result of actual democracy, where elected politicians set policy, and they were like, this is corrupt, this is incompetent. Everything people say about Donald Trump, they said about William McKinley. They may be a little more right about Trump than they were about McKinley. I wouldn't say that. But yeah, they looked at American aristocrats of the period, looked at the Gilded Age. They looked at what was called the Great Barbecue. They looked at the idea, okay, this is real democracy. If you put elected politicians in charge of the government, that's the literal word democracy. And they were like, this is terrible. And who can save us from this? And so, the answer of a king wasn't available to them at that time. And so they're like, all right, What if we put the professors in charge? What if we put the experts in charge? What if we put the old aristocrats in charge? What if we put the smartest people in charge? And this seemed absolutely infallible to them. And they did not realize how much that exercise of power would in fact corrupt these people, to the point where it basically led essentially well-meaning non-evil virologists to invent a pandemic that killed 20 million people and then cover it up.
Like,
so he's
again, source.
yeah, one source. Well, I don't even know how you source that. He's
You-
talking about the Gilded
yeah.
Age. He's talking about the fucking robber barons of the Gilded Age, where like Theodore Roosevelt came in and passed. This is actually great. This links back to my video essay on imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism. So thank God, bro, it's all coming together. Like talking about the robber barons of the Gilded Age and how like Teddy Roosevelt eventually passed like anti-monopoly laws. And I don't know where
No kidding.
where's the connection to like, yeah, he's climbed up the chair. I don't know where the connection is to like now professors run run our democracy.
Yeah, I don't.
Like we, unless he's trying to be like, we turn to the experts of economics and we're like, how do we stop monopolies? And their answer was, break them up because you have the stick to hit the monopolies with. And that, like, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? It just doesn't I don't, again, like you said, source, I would like more information. Like maybe he does have like an actual cogent argument and I'm just like stupid, which is highly possible. But also, like, I'm also very, like, it seems like you should rely on the experts. Like, it's very
100%.
strange argument to be like, don't rely on the experts.
Yeah,
Like,
that's just another red flag.
Is he an expert in saying that?
No. I mean, he thinks he is, obviously.
That is exactly why.
Yeah.
And I think
Oh
that
my God.
that lesson exists across the board in all of these areas of public policy. I view the Ukraine war as a tragedy very, very similar to the tragedy of COVID. It's basically unaccountable public policy on, with nothing to stop it. And
Hey,
I don't
cringe. As a certified American foreign power lover, that's a cringe statement. Fuck you. NATO is great. Expand that shit as far as possible. Russia should have no say over whether or not we can expand NATO to sovereign nations. Fuck you. Anyone who says it's our fault is a liar. It's all Russia's fault. Fuck you. And everyone in America should support NATO because it's awesome.
the fact that these structures are oligarchic and based on prestige rather than authority do not mean that they do not have power, and do not mean that they do not have the power to misgovern.
Are professors in charge? His standard for what makes a professor, is that right? Those sorts of questions.
Well, we know for a fact professors aren't in charge because...
Yeah, I mean, also, pause. Like, we have RFK Jr. as the head of like health right now.
We have a lot of non-experts in positions that require specific areas of expertise.
Yeah,
So
bro, like, what
bad.
crack are you smoking?
So stupid. It's so stupid.
But anyway, I'll come back to that in a second, but I want to go back to the very beginning of that set of remarks when...
I like it. She starts off with, "That's stupid."
Yeah, because it is. It's a dumb statement.
Yeah.
Mr. Yarvin suggested that pluralism and veritas are in conflict with each other. That's not the case. To
Okay,
protect
that's
freedom
them,
is to generate diversity of thought. James Madison said that. Old idea, others have said it as well. And so to protect freedom and is to generate precisely what you need in order to pursue veritas, namely the conflict of ideas required for competitive consideration of hard questions that are rarely given to certain conclusions. So in that regard, actually pluralism is something that helps advance the cause of veritas. Respecting pluralism and protecting pluralism is beneficial to the project of discovery. The project of discovery always benefits from adversarial structures and competitive structures. And so yes, there's always room for the enterprise of science to improve itself. And no, the professors are certainly not in charge, but who can deny that expertise brings with it a certain kind of power? But again, it's a very specific kind of power. And the question is, how does it sit in relationship to other kinds of power? There, I think the best way of understanding what our goal should be is actually to go back to Aristotle, who gave us a beautiful account of the different kinds of knowledge and expertise that people bring to bear. So again, when he's talking about his different regime types, partly the different regime types also put different kinds of knowledge offerings on the shared table of society. So the people bring things in particular. They bring clarity about values for society.
Oh my God.
They also bring...
We got an answer about what we made it. We made it to the why democracy is good. Holy shit, we did it.
She brought it to the end. She brought it.
It took a while, but we got there.
Was it part of her plan? I have no idea.
No, I don't think so, but we made it.
But yeah, we're there.
Bring clarity.
Or maybe she realized, like, maybe I didn't actually answer why it was good.
Yeah. She's like, let me bring this home real quick.
Yeah.
About their desire to play a role, and for what reasons they have for flourishing. The oligarchy category in the ancient sense brings clarity about honor and privileges and rights and things like that. And then in Aristotle's account, the monarchs are those who do bring that trained expertise. Society can generate these things differently in a variety of different ways, but the point is we need all of it. We do actually need the clarity about values that come from the perspective of ordinary people. We also need trained expertise. We also need to ensure that the pathway to participating in that world of trained expertise is broadly open. And that is a competitive pathway, and that the work that comes out of it is developed in competitive and adversarial structures of engagement. So at any rate, that was a mouthful, I realize, but no, in general, professors are not in charge, but expertise and ordinary knowledge, the knowledge of common people, can work well together when we build the right structures for pulling them together.
Let me hone in. It seems like
That was a great answer. I really like that answer.
Yeah, that was
To be
good.
fair, I also just basically agreed like with 100% with everything she just said. So I was like, "Fuck yeah, bro!
Yes.
I like this lady."
Did Curtis Yarvin roll his eyes? It's just
Maybe.
it just seemed like he was doing a lot of like he was just thinking, like he was like he heard her say something, then he like moved his eyes up, like contemplating it and taking the information.
You know what? Let's
maybe
just
he did
poison the
roll
well. Yeah, let's poison the well. He did roll his eyes. Fuck this guy, bro.
Yeah,
How dare he?
yeah, fair enough. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, fuck this guy. That's great.
Also, it's okay, Sephi. RFK's on my shit list, so
Fuck that guy.
because fuck that guy
Oh,
too.
yeah.
I feel like this debate has been a success because we've honed in on what I would say is the most important point, which is essentially the functioning of the marketplace of ideas. And the marketplace of ideas, when it works well, is essentially a Darwinian system in which good ideas exactly, I don't like using the word that starts with a D, but in which you have a variety of ideas, like mutations in a Darwinian system, and it's the survival of the fittest. And
We did it. We brought it. Remember, I told you about the ideas, how they spread, the memes. It's all coming back together. Oh my god. Holy shit. This is crazy.
See, why don't you do this for a living? Like,
Literally, I just need to predict what people are gonna say. Historical materialism is right. I can predict the future, and nobody else can.
and I knew what you meant, Sephi. I was just saying I have him on a shit list in Retribution.
RFK should be on everybody's shit list.
Exactly.
And those systems work well when the definition of fittest is actually the definition that you want. And the essential problem when you have scientists kind of puttering around in their laboratories, breeding beans with other beans, and they're like, look, wow, it worked.
Wow, it's just going in on agriculture, GMOs. Fucking fantastic.
He's talking.
I know. Just
Sorry.
he's
Cover my mouth.
no, you go. Yeah, I know that's not what he's talking about, but it just annoys me that he seems to. Well, again, it's like maybe we shouldn't have experts. I'm like, you don't even know what you're talking about.
No, because he has no clue. He's a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Works like this. The fittest ideas in that, bucolic condition of 19th century science are simply the truest ideas. You were evolving, you were selecting for veritas. When I look at the way that
I would argue that breeding beans to make better beans is not necessarily in pursuit of veritas, but I mean,
well,
in pursuit of functionality.
Well, really what he's trying to get at is like, if a bunch of experts don't leave their bubble, they're not going to get challenging ideas, which is whatever. But even in the hypothetical of beans, I don't need to know what a political scientist thinks about me breeding beans.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Like,
This is why we have experts in different fields.
Yeah.
To work
exactly.
off each other.
It's very strange. It's almost like a Marxist rejection of like specialization in the economy. Like it's a very strange thing for like a capitalist to be poo-pooing, is like functionally being like, you guys are specializing too hard and this is fucking up the world. Like that's a very it's very like odd. Like you don't complain about specialization if you're a capitalist, because specialization is like one of the best parts of capitalism. So it's a very like odd critique to levy at the system.
Expertise has worked in the 20th century ever since public policy started being dictated by ideas at Harvard. What I see is actually very different from that. And again, I'm going to use virology as an example. Within virology, the Robert Califfs of virology did exist before COVID. And there were actually people who very bravely stood up and said, no, you should not be doing gain of function research. There is actually nothing to be gained from gain of function research. We found...
What is gain of function research?
I have no idea.
You know what? No, I have to look. He's like, there's nothing functional about gain of function research. Are you kidding me? Gain of function research is a type of scientific investigation that involves enhancing the properties of a pathogen or virus, such as its infectivity, virulence, and transmissibility. The goal of gain of function research is to gain a better understanding of how pathogens work and to develop strategies to prevent or treat infections.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, like that's that.
I mean, I get the risks, but
sure, yeah, like anything.
Yeah.
That actually nothing was gained at all from this research when COVID.
Oh, I have to imagine he just doesn't know. Like,
I think
the shit we've gained from it. Like, I don't either, but I'm just gonna assume since it's been funded for such a long time, there's probably good shit coming out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. Or he's just a bad actor. One of the two.
Yeah, basically can't figure out how to beat it if we don't know how it works. Yeah, we're looking for prevention, not cure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Was created, they were like, we're going to predict these emergences of viruses. Okay, you predicted it, it happened. Now what? Did you learn anything? No.
Well, we did actually learn quite a bit. We put in place a lot of efforts to curb the spread, which he didn't like.
Yeah.
So just because he didn't like it,
and you don't even need to make this argument.
Yeah.
You don't even need to make this argument. All you need to do is be like, let's say I grant you everything you just said, that like the gain of function research is in fact bad, and we don't learn a lot, and like the risks just don't outweigh the reward of like learning about diseases. Like, let's say I grant you that. Okay, we just stop that one thing, and like, so I've solved your problem, and I've maintained my system, and I've maintained the validity of my system, without having to turn to monarchy. Like,
it's that's not economic structure or government structure specific.
Has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
Like, just like one malfunction in the government is not evidence of the entire system being faulty.
Yeah.
You did.
If you brought that logic to anywhere else, then you would have to say pretty much everything is faulty.
True.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, what you find is that what you're evolving for in the
I break my leg, put me down.
Funded science is science that gets more grants. And so gain of function, imagine being a biologist who's against gain of function research. You were not a team.
Imagine Imagine being a scientist who isn't for the development of preventable medical treatment. Like,
Yeah.
that's
idiot.
wild.
Player. You were trying to deny grants to all of your friends. You were saying, don't work on this. And they're basically saying, look, but I have this beautiful research that I'm doing, and it's explained by this idea that sort of the 1918 flu should be a problem. So let's go and, reinvent the 1918 flu. Actually, I forget the name, but something very disturbing happened in the supposedly anti-academic Trump administration, which is, I think, the deputy head of NIAID, the Infectious Diseases Institute, is actually the gain-of-function guy who recreated the 1918 flu.
Good. What does that have to do? Or even bad,
Or-
what does that have to do with anything, as you were saying?
Yeah, exactly. Like this Curtis Yarvin has now lost the plot in the debate. He's just being like,
Oh, absolutely. He's going around and I don't even know what he's doing.
It's just he's cutting out.
he's doing absolutely nothing. He's just
Yeah.
being
He's
like,
yapping.
He's
just being like, the government did bad stuff sometimes, and like that's it.
Therefore,
in which he
your point
doesn't
is
have,
valid.
and he doesn't even probably have the receipts for that, for at least his specific claims. Like, obviously, governments mess up, but
Yeah, or like the specific
Christ.
claim of gain of function research is bad. Like I don't think he's
it's so
proven
stupid.
that.
Yeah, no, he hasn't. I think he's like, viruses and pathogens bad, therefore research on it bad, or like
Yeah, or at least
developing
like this-
new ones bad. But he
Like
doesn't.
this type of research.
It's like he doesn't take the. Oh, you know what? It kind of reminds me a little of like prima facie. You know what that is?
Like prior assumption, like what?
Uh,
Or is this like
so-
kind of prima facie?
It's used in a anti-abortion argument of
Okay.
a concept called flow. But basically,
Okay.
I'm gonna pull up for it's based on the first impression, accepted as correct until proven otherwise. It's like basically judge a book by its cover, right? It's like okay, upon first impressions, like, well, that seems bad, but it's like, oh, now that we've actually looked into it, this is probably good. So don't
Okay.
so to me, it feels like prima facie, and prima facie is just kind of dumb. Like, I don't know why it exists as a concept, because all it does is say is like, people end up saying it and it sounds like, oh, maybe cognitive dissonance is fine. That's what it kind of sounds like to me. That's not what it's literally implying, but
Right.
it feels like that to me.
No, I would definitely say this is like a prima facie. Yeah, prima facie. He's just being like making more disease bad,
Yeah.
which like
Yeah.
is not true.
It's like there's nuance to this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, there are
exactly.
there are
Nuance.
certain, there are certain prima facies you do have to accept, but yes, on this one,
Sure,
we'll
yeah,
agree.
no, this.
Cringe.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Which hasn't gotten out and hurt us yet, but very well might. And so, when I look at this, I'm like, wow, if the professors aren't in charge, even electing Donald Trump doesn't seem to have stopped the gain of function, basically, world. What I see is that gain of function research, like so many other research programs, has a built-in bureaucratic advantage because it generates funding. And there are so many basically directions in research and public policy where it is not the direction of veritas, that wins. It is the direction of, if you'll excuse my Latin, monetas. And that money is not, it's not.
I don't know what that is. Gotta look it up. Monetas.
Monetas. Monetary gain.
He's just trying to sound smart.
Yeah,
all.
100%.
This is
Excuse my Latin.
yeah. Excuse my Latin. Fucketh my dicketh.
This guy definitely was the kid that was in the corner of the class. He kept to himself.
Y'all are just bullying him right now. What the fuck?
And he's lying, so you think it's hard. Yeah.
Continue. I'm looking it up.
Not corporate,
This guy,
bribery or
he's just
whatever.
an edgelord.
It's just the fact that
well.
everyone in science, and this is, by the way, the reason that I personally dropped out of science, is that I realized that to be a good scientist today, to be an effective PI in the system, you have to be an empire builder. And I'm just not an empire builder.
Okay.
So
All right,
there is something to say in terms of scientific research. It's like pretty much so many scientists are more or less forced to do research on things that aren't necessarily their passion projects, but like for the pursuit of civilization. which is pretty,
Yeah, one with
pretty important,
capitalism,
right?
baby.
Which is pretty important, I would say. And it sucks that there can't be more like scientific passion projects because we have to put funding. Not we have to put funding in. Or spend funding in certain ways, but like they only get so much funding. So we have to use that funding as wisely as we can to grow as a society, basically.
Yeah. This capitalist is complaining about like proper distribution of funds. Like,
Yeah.
fuck, shut up.
It's just not me, right? And so what we have is this generation of very effective bureaucrats, the Faucis, the Ralph Barracks, the Peter Daszaks, the people who really honestly right now should be in jail for what they did. And instead, they have suffered little or no harm. EcoHealth Alliance, which basically ran, the research program under Peter Daszak, was disbarred, or they can't get grants anymore. Peter Daszak is like, fine, we'll shut it down. We'll start a new organization, different name, should be fine. Like, actually, these people seem profoundly unaccountable. And if you look at the processes that gave them power and really the power to create COVID, they seem very, very corrupt. And I see essentially many, many things. Who benefits from expansion of NATO to the east? Well, I don't know who benefits, but I know
NATO.
a lot of people have died.
Oh,
Base.
How's that working out for you, Ukraine? When I look at the social...
I mean, maybe Russia shouldn't have done horrible shit in the first place.
I know, like, the problem is, like, who do you lay blame at? Like,
Yeah.
you can't lay blame at the sovereign nation, like, engaging in its sovereignty. Like, are
Yeah.
you stupid?
Yeah, it's dumb.
Like, what the fuck? Are you dumb?
policies.
This guy is, in fact, just a fucking, like, Redditor, 4chaner.
Yeah, bro, it's
Anonymous
literally like,
guy.
it's literally...
It's crazy.
I'm so glad I get to do this. This is literally like the Hassan argument, where you're basically just like,
Ugh.
oh, well, Russia said you shouldn't, Russia said you can't, NATO can't expand. And it's like,
So-
why should we care?
This is the real reveal that Squid's also a Hassan hater.
That's right, bro. I'm
Yeah,
tying
I
it all
mean-
I
together.
mean, with my limited knowledge of both Curtis Yarvin and Hassan, obviously I know Hassan more. I'd still probably prefer Hassan, realistically.
No, he's a tanky. I hate them both.
Oh, the takey's
Yeah, no, honestly.
yeah.
Yep.
7:30. I'm gonna hop off now.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I know you all exist. I'm gonna be a menace. I'll be back. All right, later, Seth.
All right, thank you
All
for
right,
coming
thanks
by.
for dropping by, Steph. You're the best.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I forgot you did mention he was a tanky.
Yeah, he's a tanky, bro. He's a Marxist-Leninist. He wants to kill me. So
Yeah.
fuck that guy. At least Curtis Jarvis doesn't want to kill me. Okay. Like he's got that going for him.
We don't know.
I'm like decently positive, you know.
And of the 1960s, which were supported by almost all academics. And I look at basically, Professor Allen was talking about the legacy of devastation that these policies have left over the last 50 years. They were all approved by the best social scientists of the time. I see the same effect where this system is
Source.
not evolving the best and truest ideas. It's involving the most powerful ideas and, in a way, the most pernicious ideas. And I can't help but relate that to Professor Allen's belief that positive liberty, in other words, power, is an essential goal of human nature.
Is he conflating liberty and power?
Yeah, like the
guess.
power to. Well, it's
They're
like
like
not
free-
it's a little conflation.
freedom.
It's like, yeah. Well, basically it would be like you need to be able to exercise political power in order to have power. Like those are the same
Okay.
thing. Like political power and power are the same.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, it's like fine that he's conflating the two, but yeah, you would. Whatever. He's stupid. Fuck this guy. There you go.
Sure, your response, Professor Allen, whether or not what he said is factually or historically correct, if there's something structurally wrong which is producing what he claims to be the case about professors and academic elites of that sort.
So
I
there's a
thi-
lot there, so I'm not.
I think the moderator's in on it now.
Yeah.
Like,
well, 'cause
please put him in his place.
Yeah, because it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't make
That
sense.
was funny.
Not going to respond to the whole picture there. I think that's not what our resolution is about. But I will say a few things. I mean, for starters, science is a hard enterprise, and science is also a bureaucratic enterprise. Both of those things are true simultaneously. Scientists do work according to a set of norms for inquiry that are of a very high standard, is short of it. And they hold each other to a very high standard, and they do put each other under intense competitive pressures. Is it possible that bureaucratic pressures are also affecting how science unfolds? Yes. Should science take a look at itself and consider how it's doing its work? Yes. I think all those things are the case. But sciences generally have established very high standards for their work and maintain a commitment to testing and evaluating what they're doing. But I think the important question here, more broadly, just to bring us back to our original resolution, is whether or not this university in particular is in a place where it can do work that is for the good of our society. And the answer to that question is yes. And the reason for that answer is because we are very clear about core values. Those are values of Veritas. They are also values of pluralism. Again, those things are mutually supportive of each other. And it is possible both to stand up for and defend values of academic freedom and intellectual freedom, and also to put yourself on a path of reform and renewal. We can defend by renovating, and that is, I believe, the path that we're on.
All right, perhaps we can get into closing statements. I think they've allotted
Excellent.
5 to 10, perhaps it was 8 minutes. Mr. Yarvin, if you'd like to start your closing remarks.
So maybe I can, in my closing remarks, I could do something a little unusual and kind of argue Professor Allen.
Oh, trust me, everything you do is pretty unusual.
Yeah, you're a pretty odd duck.
Yeah, that's a little weirdo.
One side, for the moment, because I think we've seen sort of maybe a little too little of. I've been making the case, and I would like to think somewhat successfully, against oligarchy. Not as an abstract system, because of course we've seen, all of the three forms can work in their own way in different societies, in different structures. Another name for, the positive name for oligarchy is aristocracy. I think Harvard has always, tried to represent, the rule of the best. And, even you see it recovering from the witch craze of the 1690s. You see it.
What?
I hope after 330 years that maybe things at Harvard have changed.
Yeah.
At least a little fucking bit.
Yeah, I would yeah.
He's so stupid.
They don't burn witches anymore,
Recovering from the wokeness
Now we go to MIT.
Yeah.
craze of the 2020s, and I think it is capable of recovering, and I want to see it recover. And one of the lessons, one of the things that I say to basically people who are on my side, not that I'm a partisan, I'm just an intellectual, one of the things
Arguably.
that I say
Source.
Not
to
really.
people on my side when I encounter these elite institutions is I'm like, you sort of go through 3 stages of looking at these institutions. First, you see them very distantly, and you see them according to the kind of mythology of the institution. And the mythology of the institution is that there's this incredible cornucopia, this incredible banquet of intellectual delights. Every form of truth is laid out, et cetera, et cetera. And you get closer to these things, and you start to smell them, and you're like, well, especially in certain areas, I'm really looking at a vast dung heap. And that's the attitude that I think many Trump supporters have. They have a very they're just like, there's nothing here, this needs to be scattered to the wind. I would say look closer at that dung heap, and you'll find always in every one of these elite institutions that I have come into contact with, there are real kernels of corn amidst the dung. Okay, and these are the seeds of basically the next generation that are, lead to renewal. There are people that really believe in these values. The values are eternal. Veritas is eternal, and so on and so forth. And when we see, and I believe that I agree with Professor Allen. I believe that there's a capacity for renewal here, but I
once
also
it gets to
believe
the end of his speech, pause.
Yeah.
I just wanted to finish before I talk.
takes looking very, very hard at what Harvard is and became during the 20th century, which is very different from what it was in any of the past centuries. And when we, unfortunately, when we sort of put it up against, I've sort of discussed, ad nauseum, the virtues of an ideal monarchy, and what we have in the Trump administration is very far from being a monarchy.
What?
Do you he didn't mention the ideal monarchy once. Like, he completely failed miserably.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just let him finish. I gotta maintain.
Trump, as he says, is really a rebel and not an emperor, and he's disrupting a system rather than creating a new system. But also, when we look at that, we see many of the failings of monarchy. And so when we, to come back to my updated Aristotelian trinity, where monarchy, oligarchy, and democracy become authority, prestige, and popularity, we see in the Trump administration, we see these classic tropes of authoritarian populism. And it's not wrong, even though Trump is not Hitler, it's not wrong to say that these are both authoritarian populist regimes, and that there's something brittle and something broken and something questionable and something wrong about authoritarian populism without a backbone of prestige, without a backbone of aristocracy.
Well, I guess he doesn't care for the Trump administration.
I don't know. I don't even know what the point.
I don't know why.
I don't understand what the point of this.
Yeah.
Final
and I
speech
would
is.
say, just as the sort of the challenge of these institutions is to renew themselves, the challenge of the enemies of these institutions is to explain where we go from here, and how that prestige is regenerated, and whether it's generated, by the kernels of corn, sprouting again into a new beautiful cornfield, whether it's represented by new institutions is unclear. But what is clear is that prestigious institutions are necessary and essential. Prestige is essential. Democracy, in my strict meaning of the word democracy, populism is not enough. Authority is not enough. Veritas is necessary. Institutions are necessary. Institutions that filter truth from error through our Darwinian process. Which is again.
Let him finish.
He's just having a stroke.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck is happening, bro. This is like
fucking gone,
are
man.
necessary, but when you see science being filtered for power or for empire building rather than for veritas, and there are many, many examples of this in science that do not involve killing 20 million people, that just involve, wasting a lot of time. I guess I always use the amyloid hypothesis as my example of that. You basically see a really considerable amount of redirection that needs to take place and restructuring that needs to take place to serve these ideals. Whether that restructuring takes place as a result of an internal process of renewal or an external process of forced renewal is, I think, very, very unclear in the historical situation in which we exist. But I would, and I hope we can agree on this, institutions like the university that we're at are necessary and essential, and a lot of change is needed within them.
Thank you, Professor Allen.
What the fuck?
It almost sounded like he just kind of conceded in some ways.
Yeah. Literally, when he was like, academic institutions, they are important.
Exactly.
There's actually a good kind of democracy. I'm like, what is happening right now?
I don't know.
What a meandering, horrible end. That was
this was a whole switch up, right?
Yeah, that was awful. That was like embarrassing to listen to. That was like an embarrassing moment.
It was a struggle.
I'm not
for everyone involved.
Everyone.
Literally everyone.
God.
I thought maybe we would get to he like didn't even bring up the concept of democracy monarchy like
Monarchy.
once.
Dude,
like, didn't-
right? I noticed that.
So
Yeah,
disappointing.
he didn't actually defend. He like kept making us question democracy, which is
Yeah.
fine. And he didn't
Sure, yeah.
bring up, but then he didn't fill the void
He didn't
with
provide
monarchy.
a solution. Yeah.
No.
It's like so then
Like
it
you
just sounds
said-
like scorched earth without anything.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, all right, so you say democracy is bad. All right, where do we go from here? Like, you need to defend your position that monarchy
Yeah.
is better than democracy, because I mean, democracy is like almost like the best thing we got right now. It's what we can do with it, and I don't know. This was frustrating just to listen to.
Yeah. Well, this last I literally don't actually I feel like I've been able to like pause and been like explain what
Yeah.
happened. I literally I think he genuinely said nothing in those last like 8 minutes. I think
he
Oh,
just
yeah.
he just
Word salad.
conceded vaguely.
yeah,
He
he
vaguely
literally
conceded.
was like had nothing to add, he had nothing to say.
It's-
Wow, that was fucking
it was like the whole time he was just like an edgy teen, and then at the end he's like maybe like just a different side of him took over. It's like, oh man, maybe I should actually be a little nicer or something.
Yeah, that was like
It's so
yeah, that
weird.
was genuinely embarrassing to listen to. That was really bad.
Let's see what she says, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he only talks for like 2 fucking minutes, so like probably better than what he said.
Yeah.
Thank you. We can agree that universities like this are essential and have a distinguished history and also have available to them a distinguished future, that they do also have within them already the energies and dynamism of renewal. The question really, I think, is about the broader context. What are those institutions contributing to? Are they contributing to the ongoing life of a free society for free and equal self-governing citizens, or for an alternative? One of the arguments in Mr. Yarvin's book is that Hitler and Stalin gave absolute monarchs a bad name. And in his argument, they gave absolute monarchs a bad name because, in his argument, they were driven to the excesses of the Holocaust and the gulags because of existential threats from the Anglo-American alliance. Now, this is not good history of the unfolding of the totalitarian impacts of Nazi Germany and Stalinist Russia. So I say that to make the point that as we consider the future of institutions of civil society, we have to be equally clear-eyed and honest about what we can and should desire in our political institutions. Absolute monarchy is not a path to the protection of freedom. In that regard, we need the same thing both in our political institutions and in our civil society institutions. We need renovation in our universities, we need renovation in our democracy. But in both cases, we should absolutely preserve the anchors for human freedom.
Well,
That was
thank you
a
very
lot coherent. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my bro.
Yeah, that was so straightforward,
It was
Yeah.
and I could follow it. Oh my god.
it was kind of great because she's like when she says like, oh yeah, we agree on that, she's like, I know I'm right. That's
Yeah.
probably how she's like, I know I'm right and your shit's still dumb.
Dude, I've just never seen
funny.
someone fumble the fucking bag so hard at the end. Like that was I'm just like shocked at how awful that was. Like that was
I mean,
so-
look at his face.
Yeah.
I mean
That's a face of like, what the fuck did I just say?
I just
He must have realized at the end, like, wait,
Yes.
what
I
did
didn't defend monarchy. Like, it must have dawned on him, like, shit, the one thing I was supposed to do, and I didn't fucking do it.
he's gonna be reeling after this one.
Oh my
This is only
god.
3 days ago.
Yeah, no.
Oh,
I'm
really?
just yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is
Yeah, this is new.
this is the YouTube channel that publishes all the neo-reactionary stuff.
So a lot
if
of
you
Curtis Yarvin.
Curtis Yarvin, Nick Land, they post pro-monarchy like literature. They also post any like royalty-free racist stuff. They'll post.
What?
So this is
yeah.
me being a schizophrenic.
Okay.
But basically, there's like they have some fiction authors on there.
Yeah.
They have H.P. Lovecraft, and they have one other guy, and H.P. Lovecraft, renowned racist.
Much.
The other guy,
the world's favorite
accused-
racist.
Yeah, accused of like having racist stereotypes. So I found that quite amusing. They also have the Hardy Boys, which I don't think is racist, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just gonna keep pretending they only post racist stuff. I'm gonna keep poisoning the well here.
All right, let's see. Might as well close
Well,
it out.
Professor Allen and
Yeah,
Mr.
man.
Yarvin. I believe right after this, we'll have food and drinks just across the hall, if I have that right. We have it until 10 p.m.
I'm gonna need a
thank you all very
cigarette
much
after
for
this
coming
one.
out, and
Bro.
see you all soon.
I want to read the comments.
Yeah,
I want to see what like the Curtis Yarvin people. 'cause
Oh,
this
dude,
is,
they
like,
love Curtis Yarvin in the comment section.
yeah, I assume
sure.
because this is the neo-reactionary YouTube
Yeah.
channel. Like it was fucking. She raised a pure, unearned confidence in someone whose ideas have never survived outside a seminar room. I don't believe in pluralism. I believe in Veritas. Goes hard. Gonna ask the receptionist to put this on all the overhead TVs at the gym. Jeez, bro, that like
That's
I don't know how you could finish this debate and not have the major takeaway be like that was fucking embarrassing for Yarvin.
It's
unusually
unusually
concise.
concise.
Maybe in the beginning,
And
like
the
in the first
beginning, he was
half,
okay.
yeah, in the first half he was fine, and then he just kept like the first sign of like struggle was when he brought up the fucking Salem witch trials and the
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
yeah,
that
the
was bad.
point of that meandering story was I'm the guy who has truth, and Harvard sometimes doesn't have truth, and like that was it. That was the
It's
point
like,
of this
are
like
you
fucking
kidding me?
yeah,
That's
it's like
all you got?
meandering monologue. That's the point. Like yeah, that's why you're here debating. That's like what are you talking about? Of course.
I
Of
think
course you believe that.
I imagine a lot of these people, especially since these are 3 days ago, a lot of people probably tried to have like quick responses, so they probably only watched like the first part of the video.
I don't.
posted
I mean, no.
as well.
People are just audience capture. Like
Sure,
they don't care.
sure.
They'll just watch it and be like, yeah, Curtis Yarvin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's also that.
Which is fine, because obviously the only people who know of this channel are like me, schizo posters, and then people who actually like Curtis Yarvin. So
I'd like to thank Mr. Bean for a splendid moderation job.
That's hilarious.
That's actually kind of funny.
Curtis won the debate and the shoe game. The cathedral is under siege. What a fucking idiot.
This is so stupid.
No, the second half of this debate, he like absolutely, completely fell apart.
Yeah, everyone's just like talking about how the beginning, it seems. But let's see. Now that I've finished the debate, you realize that the hard professor had literally zero response to COVID because she didn't need to respond to it.
Yeah, because it didn't matter.
She
It was
sounded like an
irrelevant.
HR press release after that, rather than anyone seriously debating. She sounded like an HR press release right off the bat.
Yeah, in the beginning she was like doing nothing.
I kind of want to like comment on that as like, why should she even waste
Yeah.
her time with the COVID?
I'm glad. I think here's my guess is that she realized the racism thing is kind of like not. Because that seemed like she wanted to open up with like the racism
Yeah,
thing really
yeah.
hard, and that's what she wanted to go into. And it was like the moment she dropped that and was like, "Let me just focus on the democracy part."
Yeah.
It seemed like she felt like way more comfortable.
Yeah, it was like it was an appeal. Like at the start, it was just kind of almost like appealing to the audience. It felt like
100%.
yeah, rather than just talking about what you need to talk about.
100%.
Let's see. Okay, so Yarvin has definitely been going to speech therapy or something, right? I'm 15 minutes in, and there haven't been any or ums.
In a lot of his old ones, he's like constantly umming and erring. Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, I do that too, so I have to work on it. I'm good about not doing it if I prepare for a speech, but
Yeah. All right. This is
yeah. Anyway, we've been streaming for like almost 4 hours.
yeah, good stream.
Yeah.
Fucking,
It's been a good one.
honest-
It's been a good one.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been fun.
that was just-
Next time we'll go into a topic that maybe Coffee and I can speak more on or
yeah,
some shit.
for
I don't know.
sure. Obviously, this
No, I
was
learned a lot from Squid. Thanks.
Oh
Squid.
yeah,
I
also
appreciate
did learn a lot
Yeah.
that
No problem, guys.
that I will hopefully retain, but no promises.
Yeah, always happy to to ramble.
Hell yeah, dog.
So,
All right, I'm out of here.
later, coffee.
All right, love you guys. Peace out.
See ya.
Later.
And once again, everyone go check out Deadliest Squid on Twitch and on YouTube. He has some great shit that I should actually watch more of, admittedly.
Yeah,
But-
and hopefully I'll finish. I want to get to work on the fucking. I just haven't. Yeah, I have all the notes for like the Christian nationalism one. I just need to write that thing and get it done. So hopefully that I can get that done.
Yeah, so look forward to that coming out. So
Yeah.
thanks, guys, for dropping by. Hopefully we'll be able to get some debates going the next time. Maybe I'll change up my caller system. Maybe I'll use something different than a Discord link. I don't know. And then I also need to work on Nightbot.
Yeah, we'll
So-
fix it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, see you guys.
Later, guys.